The first trip, the first world, and the face of comrades with whom he stepped through the unknown. 100 years have passed, and he still remembers them clearly, as if it were yesterday. If 10 years have passed, the peaceful world must be waiting for this door. So at least it seemed to him. Then he sincerely believed in it, without a shadow of doubt or hesitation. The man tells him that tomorrow it is no longer necessary to come. At first he thought it was just a day off, but it turned out another. From tomorrow he no longer needed anyone. He is told that it was not suddenly. Others have long agreed, without his participation.
It was a common decision of the whole team, and it is no longer possible to change it.
He was stunned, because together they promised to defeat the King of Demons. How could they just forget about it? One of the participants firmly assures, they do not joke. This decision is final. He was once recognized as talented and invited to the party. Everyone was sincerely pleased with his arrival, and he really helped. He taught, supported, strengthened the team. But something has changed lately. He began to shake, avoid training and more entertainment. While others grew in force, he remained as he came. They still hoped that he would come to life, but their patience has long been exhausted. He begins to realize the true state of things. He was kicked out of the hero's detachment. He is no longer part of their team. A heavy, oppressive silence reigned in the room. Everyone avoids a look, but suddenly a system message appears. The condition is fulfilled. 10 minutes left before returning. He smiles. His smile turns into a genuine, joyful, "Hooray!" Others stunned. Did the expulsion break his mind? But he convinces that it is absolutely conscious. His desire finally came true. Before going, he asks for permission to leave something. A black magic circle opens before him. The atmosphere in the room is instantly straining. One of the girls recognizes this symbol and asks him to stop. Something does not give her rest, but he just puts a book on the table. This is instruction. She is surprised. Did he have the ability of spatial storage? Why didn't he talk about it before? He only points out, read it. Inside, training tips, skills, detailed conclusions from past battles. He hopes it will help them develop further. The girl raises her hand and remembers magic that she can master, although she does not know the name. He looks into her instructions. Ed believes that this magic will awaken with age. He left separate notes with an explanation. He advises to read. She gratifies. Another participant studies a complex map with secret moves and traps, even those he did not know about. He does not understand how Ed could make it, but he explains. The map covers only the places visited. The man denies. Ed could not see everything, but he is silent. I'm no longer part of the party, and does not explain anything more. A participant with long hair bows with apology. Ed is surprised. The hero sincerely pleads guilty. He says he did not realize how much Ed did for them behind them. Apologizes for his blindness.
The girl also repents. Only now she realized how much she was mistaken. Ed responds emotionally, again and again refusing to accept their apology. Another participant acknowledges that he deserved the reproaches and sincerely apologizes, recognizing Ed with absolutely right.
Ed asks everyone to raise their heads. He did not want to cause them guilt. They were kind to him, and he just sought to leave something useful after him. One of the girls, moved, calls him a fool and declares, the decision to expel is cancelled. She asks if there are still stupid, which is against. The hero, regretted by regret, says he is ashamed to ask Ed after that. But Ed is gentle. Everyone responds in surprise. The hero acknowledges that it would be strange to ask for a return immediately after the expulsion. However, Ed assures that it is not at all. He sincerely wishes them to victory over the King of Demons and hopes for their success. When Ed is already going to go, someone exclaims, asking at least to say goodbye. But he runs rapidly without looking back, until the return is 10 seconds, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ed mentally notes, this place is really pleasant. Transmigration has begun. He steps in the portal. It is absorbed by the glow of the transition. The transition is completed. He enters the new world and says quietly, "It has passed a lot of time since I was here for the last time." This time the journey lasted all year long, longer than usual. But he tried as he could. Finally, he arrived. Now, his turn, as promised. He reflected in the transparent sphere. Take me home. And thinks of silence. As always, no answer. Even at the end. That's how he expected. Once upon a time, in a peaceful life of a mercenary, Ed suddenly summoned this strange place. There was a white book, completely empty, even without the name on the cover. There was only one gate. Standing in front of her, he asked himself, what is it? What do I do? And though there was no words of God, he read the book. It is indifferent that it has a beacon. And it described the following. Go into the new world, gain the hero's trust, work with him for more than half a year, and then be expelled. After that, a return. And so again, and again. It seemed absurd. In addition, when the door opens, they will no longer open for the second time. Instead, another gate will appear in the new world, without explanations. All this cycle will take 100 years. Journeys between hundreds of worlds and expulsion from everyone. He asked himself whether he was really aware of what he was involved, but he did it. So now, don't you should celebrate a little? He gestures, points to another gate. God is silent. Ed squats, exhaling. But he knows there is a plus. He does not get old here. In the world, the time went habitually. Training. The body was strong, eating, full, hair grew. But it was worth returning here. And everything was dropped. The body became, as at the first arrival. And now, physically and spiritually, he is again about 20. For 100 years he passed through the 100th worlds, lived 100 lives. After all, he is just a man with an extremely long life. If he had now returned to his world, he would be a grandfather over 100 years. But there was no business, even fools, even mother. He laughed, and then, a verse. That's enough, right? He did everything. To the last paragraph. Now God must keep his word. Take Ed home. The transparent sphere begins to glow. Every time he was expelled from the next world, this sphere gave him new, amazing forces. He himself gave them the name, exile skills. Among them is a repository that kept things even between the worlds, the treasure of a traveler. The map that automatically recorded the places where he visited, traces of travel. Glasses that can identify hidden talents, glasses of 7 lights. And the ability to reproduce what I saw once is an imperfect fake. It was because of these forces that he, an ordinary man without outstanding abilities, was able to stay in the hero's team. He was indifferent whether it was a reward for the mission. If the force is offered, it is not a sin to accept. Ed touches the crystal ball, but it begins to glow and release something new. She endowed him with another, stunning ability. It was the first single-use skill, too valuable to spend inadvertently. It is worth keeping until the last moment. And then, the space shuddered. There were a curvature. There was a portal in front of him. But it was different. Still, all the doors appeared nearby, in sequence. For the first time, on the opposite side. Ed begins to understand. These doors are different. They existed before everything, before the first journey. It was a door to his native world. A wave of emotions covers it. Here it is. If he opens this door, he will return to where he was born. To the world that has been longing for 100 years. But, stop. 100 years? All these worlds went in the usual time. This meant that 100 years have passed in the native world. Then what awaits him for this door? 100 years later. And suddenly he realized, he gave centuries to God, or maybe they just stole them. He never knew the reason, no goal, even meaning. He just did what he was forced, silently, without questions. Didn't you deserve something at the end? Or God wanted him to use the forces obtained instead? If it was a reward, then pathetic. This is not a reward at all. God is silent. And then he saw her, a book. The same as at the beginning. Does God want him to read it again? Under the name of the door, he notices the numbers. They indicated how much time it took in each of the worlds from the moment of his departure. They are real, and they only appeared now. But when? One of the gates had a 000 mark. This meant that theoretically he could return to the very moment when he was first stolen. Right that day, he reached out to the handle. But the door did not open. Something fell on his head. Another book, it had a key. He was described as a memorable service for full coercion. Ed swore aloud. He could not imagine anything more meaningless and unnecessary as a memory gesture. The key had a strange property, to open any of the previous worlds only once. He could visit any world and then return to his. But to return, you will have to use the key again in that reality. The key will then disappear, and only then will the door marked with a mark 000. He will finally be able to see the world he has traveled for the first time. To see what happened to him. Complete your long way. But he did not need it. Suddenly, a new rule. If he does not return to one of the worlds, the door to the native will remain closed forever. His jaws were stuck. If it turns out that you will have to go the path of expulsion again in order to return home, it will really explode with anger. Everything that has accumulated in 100 years. But if you just need to use the key in this space, then it is not so scary. Just choose the world, visit there, and return. Easy victory, at first glance. He smiled. And where to go? Before that, or maybe before, and suddenly noticed something familiar. One of the gates had a sign 001, the first gate, the first world. It was there the hardest thing. Then everything was new to him. He was thrown into the world without warning, and he found himself in the hero's party, although he did not even reach the city guard. An ordinary person could not get there. Only the first skill of the exile, the random carrier of the flag, helped. It was she who brought him to the hero, and thanks to her he became part of the team. But it was then that real difficulties began. He had no power to fight on a par with others, and his abilities were in vain. He lived daily with the fear of being rejected, and desperately looking for what could be useful. He rescued housing, bought supplies, packed things, collected intelligence, did everything, even the smallest things. But he still does not know what 3 comrades thought about him. For a year and a half, which passed before exile, they were his comrades. At least it seemed so. He was expelled somewhere in the middle of their common road. But what happened then? He raised his eyes on the plate over the gate. It has been 10 years. This should be enough to defeat the king of demons. Probably the world is now in peace. If so, you cannot rush. Just walk, see familiar places, a quiet journey. Although this journey was imposed, and from a distance, not everything in it was terrible. There was a lot of heavy, but a lot of good ones. He walks through the gate and says quietly, "I will miss this place." The world of his first great journey. Legs touched familiar grass. He straightened and looked around. Is it really the same place from which it all started? The landscape seemed to others, but it seemed to him that he had forgotten everything. But no, the main thing he kept. What is really important, he hid deeply. And now, returning, everything was mentioned. There should be a city in that direction. He looked. Yes, it is there. If the king of demons have already won, then strong monsters should not remain nearby. But it is still worth checking, and at the same moment, an ambush. Something hit him from behind. He resisted, squeezing his legs into the ground. A giant serpentine creature risen above him. Why did such a monster appear in an alleged safe area? On the other hand, this is an ideal opportunity. He activates the treasure of the traveler, his repository. He gets the sword and prepares for battle. In his first visit, he did not know that the skills of the exile were working even at the reconciliation of the world. Time to check this. He rushes forward and strikes the snake in the head. He opens his mouth, preparing for the attack. ED activates another skill. Unprocessed wall. As expected, the fangs of the snake cannot break through protection. They are repelled by magical barrier power. The monster rushed at him, but Ed's eyes were rounded. The blow was missing. The defense worked flawlessly. He laughed and prepared for a new occasion. A radiant magical circle was formed in front of Paskaya. It was an attack. Acid magic. Probably she is. The flow of compressed fluid was rushed to it, but only slightly wet the skin. Thanks to the absorbing magic curtain skills, even this was a threat. Magic and physical attacks were not afraid to him. It's time for the finale. He answered with a blow. His blade, hidden, punched the target for sure. Victory. Now there was no need to hurry. He set the pace of travel. It is such places. That's what he missed for. Once upon a time, he was intended to fight side by side with the hero. But not now. Now he is free where he wants. Moreover, the treasure of the traveler was filled with gold and silver gained in the past. Ed noted that one armor looks like the one that the hero once wore. Maybe even sell sweet characters in the style of heroes? Heroic Stim, Benaya, and Monza? He imagined this picture. He did not need it, but I wanted. And suddenly, he saw something and rushed. But really? Is that a joke? What is happening? He did not stop. The city, it was collapsed. Why? A demonic beast attack? But the king of demons had already been overcome. Or maybe it's a war between people? It would not be surprising if people returned against each other after the defeat of the demon. But only 10 years have passed. It's not even like reconstruction. What really happened here? The old man called him, in surprise, asking what he was doing here. There was nothing left here for a long time. Is he not caught here because of false information? The old man extends him a purse and warns to be careful. Ed replies. He did not come to search for ruins. But what is strange, is the place really so destroyed? The old man replies, this locality has been in ruins for 2 years. The city was completely destroyed by the king of demons. 2 years ago, the army of the king demons? Ed could not believe. What does he mean? The army still exists? The old man is just surprised. But she has long been wandering around the world. And where are you from at all? Ed asks, aren't the remains? Are they still active? And the hero? The old man does not understand. Hero? Yes, Alexis. 10 years ago, the prince of this country almost defeated the king of demons. Alexis is he. The old man replies that Alexis died 5 years ago, in battle with the demon army. Ed doesn't believe. Hero, dead? He laughs nervously. This is a hero. Can't be. But then it becomes clear why such a monster was near the city. No matter whether he believes in or not, the destroyed city was a clear testimony. Ed admitted, if the hero was here, it may not happen. Ed grabbed the old man with his shoulders and asked feverishly, "Where are the others? There were 2 more in the hero's detachment." The old man only shrugged. They may have died too. At least he did not hear any rumors about their survival. It was awful. Once upon a time they were hope, and it all ended in the ruins. Ed heard that the things were progressing well, but now he doubted how much it was. People believed only because they were told. In the end, no matter who Ed, a prince or hero, death will cut everything. The old man wished him good luck and advised him to go on his way. The dead, this thought hurt him. Did they really die? True heroes, not self-esteem, how he is. Defeated by a demon army? Why? What happened after his expulsion? Everyone was killed. Alexis, Gonzo, Tia, did it all happen to him, due to his absence? No, this is absurd. To think that everything could change because of the usual carrier of things. It would be too self-confident. He remembered the dead, those with whom he traveled. He needed to see the end of that world. With his eyes, he activates the skill of the exile. The compass of the past. Team, find the place of death of hero Alexis. The compass was illuminated. Alexis is really dead. The arrow pointed to the king of the demons. Next is Gunzo. He repeats the search. And again, the same place. It turns out they died together. What should he do now? Perhaps to find the place of their death and build graves. But first, Tia. He utters her full name. Tia Lunarisha. Finding the place of her death. The compass answered, but nothing. He is frozen, puzzled. The screen is empty. He changed the request. This time, the current location of Ta Lunarisha. The compass rotates again. The arrow showed direction. Without a second, Ed activates another exile skill. Hermes jerk. His body was ripped forward. All his thoughts were about Tia. The speed has increased. He did not stop. She is alive. That's all that had importance. In front of him, the lake. He rushed forward without breaking. On the very shore of water, he causes another skill of the exile. He learned her voice. Ed. The moon responded in thoughts. He flew past the flock of geese. The displacement of the mirage is activated. Time went back. He rushes with narrow mountain trails and jumps through rapid streams. On the timer, 1728, it is attacked by monsters. He breaks through them without stopping. The timer reaches 0. The skill may end, but it continues to run. Voices were heard near the castle. Demons were announced. This march had to destroy the next human city. Their victory was already nearby. The team was clear, to advance, and destroy everything in its path. The monsters rang in unison, echoing in the sky a sign of evil. But suddenly one of them noticed something behind. It was Ed. The monsters engulfed the confusion, and they were again ordered to go forward. They broke into the air. But Ed raced through them. The monsters looked around confusedly. What's going on? He activated one of the skills, and the monsters suddenly began to hang in the air, defenseless. Panic spread among them. What is the power? Ed only squeezed his jaw. His rapid running paved the circle so clear that it could be seen even from space. Finally, he stopped near the forest, breathing hard, tried to calm the breath. Not recovering, he looked at the compass. Is this really a place? Doubt broke into the heart. He was not sure. And then he remembered. He forgot to grasp the gift. It took something nice, with a shower. And then he remembered. Orange fruits, sweet and fragrant. He remembered exactly. Ta loved sweets. He prepared a basket, and he was in front of her door. He knocked, but suddenly he doubted. For her, he is an exile. Nothing. Is it worth waiting for a smile? Is he happy in this house at all? His jaws tensed. He has gone too much to retreat now. He knocked again, stronger. There was no answer. The doubts have awakened again. Maybe it's not home? Everything is too quiet. He knocked again. But no, something is wrong here. The doors were open. He was already going to go without permission as he suddenly heard his name. He froze. Someone recognized him. The girl could not believe. She was still in her dream. Ed's eyes were wide open. It was Tia. Her solar yellow hair and jade eyes glowed, like 100 years ago. He did not have time to say. As Tia rushed to him, crashing into him with the explosion of joy, it was as if it had stopped. She was the same as before. Her movements were emotional, sincere. She hugged him firmly, to the bears. He was confused. Everything was too sudden. He tried to take his hands, but her crazy energy did not rest. She did not believe that he was really. After they parted, she was looking for him, asked, traveled, but did not find a trace. No one heard anything about him. He did not want to worry her. But after the expulsion, it became a spot. So it changed its name and started a new life in another country. In fact, within 10 minutes after the expulsion, he returned to the white world. She was no longer restrained. Tears of joy flowed on her cheeks. The relief was almost unbearable. Ed was barely holding on. The emotions were overwhelmed by both. She confessed. She almost fell. He sat down too. Orange fruits lay near them. "Why so many?" said Tia. It was a souvenir from him, a small gift. She moved, but remember one but. Her home has no bath, and these fruits traditionally eat in the bath, sliced, washed with aroma that softens the skin. But Ed brought them just to taste, sweet, delicious, with care. He insisted that she try them just. "The taste will surprise you," he smiled. He even showed where to cut. "It is worth it." She looked at him again. Her gaze changed. Her eyes stopped on his broken clothes. Why is he so shabby? Ed just laughed. Traveled the world to see an old woman. She smiled, but mentally asked herself, why did he try so hard? She said calmly that she would go to dress, and he should not rush. And only then did Ed notice. She was still in pajamas. Her joke about dressing together embarrassed him. He did not plan to dress. Once he was never popular with women, and Ta was always too close. She touched, leaning so that he felt her breath. It made him tremble. He looked around. It was a house. His gaze ran around the room, table, things that created comfort. He walked to the door, pushed the curtain, and went inside. Ta shouted from another room, apologizing for the delay. Ed replied, and froze. She asked what looks. Her appearance changed, but the clothes were the same as it was ever. He was staring. Why did she wear it at home? Is this caution? Is it just a habit? After all, how else to respond to a person who disappeared for a year and suddenly appeared? Her voice called him again. He called him. He exclaimed, but she calmly said, "Remove it." He got confused. What did she mean? Later, when Ta repaired his clothes, she looked at the fruit. She looked distrustful. She may have hoped that he would be acidic as usual. But Ed confidently stated that he was sweet. She decided to trust. With unexpected simplicity, she asked, "Help." Her hands were busy sewing, and she turned to him. Ed was lost. He hesitated, upset. But he eventually agreed. He took a piece of fruit and lifted to her mouth. She jokingly twisted. "Sour, you lied." Ed for a moment, and he doubted himself. But he tasted. The fruit was sweet. He gave more. Say, make sure. The taste for him was obvious. He even asked if it was a draw. She laughed. They say, a little baby, but cute. After all, they always played, right? But for Ed, it was not just a joke. He seemed to be unilateral. She only teased him, but they were genuinely surprised. Did he not notice that she showed sympathy for him? And how much? Although she looked young, she was an elf. For a long time, 100. For her, he could seem a child. Ed always held back himself, afraid to seem obsessive. He believed that caution was justified. She just smiled. "Even after 100 years, I have not changed." Ed replied bitterly, "You have kicked me out of the hero's detachment." The atmosphere has changed. Ta became serious. Her silence cut the air. Ed hastened to add, "I don't keep it." Ta apologized. But Ed insisted. It was his fault. He even bowed his head. I apologized. And he heard from her quite another. "Did you come to blame me, right? You returned? For I'm the only one who survived?" Her words hit the heart. Ed asked to tell what really happened. Tia did not look, only gently continued to sew and began to speak quietly. After Ed left, they tried to find a replacement. But nothing happened. They were located on the forefront in the campaign against the army of the demon, and the only ones who announced were hunters for glory, not true companions. But they did not need a new warrior. They needed someone who supported the rear, wearing things so that the front lines could focus on battle. Beginners did not understand this. They wanted glory, not logistics. They tried 6 different people. None stayed for a long time. No one was able to truly fit into the team. After all, they hired a professional carrier. But even he went in 3 months. Ed was surprised. If it is not incompetence, then what was the cause? Ta explained that the carrier only carried luggage, and all. And Ed did much more. Cleaning, ironing, organizing housing, even cooking. Ed remembered the time well. He was weak and afraid to be expelled, so he did every little thing to be useful. His despair was perceived as a norm, and Alexis believed that all successors should try the same. In the end, the carrier said, "I'm not a cleaner and a chef. Hire a servant if necessary." He clearly outlined his duties. Alexis exploded and expelled it immediately. Ed mentally agreed. If he was taken as a standard, the disappointment was inevitable. No one would repeat what he did. Ta confessed, then they just lacked time to realize everything. Only after this incident did they understand the true value of the one who was expelled. Ta clenched her teeth. After that situation, the party's reputation fell. No one wanted to work with them anymore. And that's when someone appeared. Someone who promised to pull any baggage, do any work without any complaint. Alexis immediately accepted him, like TIA of Gonzo. They finally managed to restore the expedition with the new participant. He also worked hard. After a long, grueling journey, they reached deep into the demonic world, and crossing the dark forests reached the possessions of the King of Demons. Taya had a bad anticipation, therefore it has done important preparations before. But the new carrier betrayed them at a crucial moment, at the doorstep of the last battle. He disappeared, and with him, all potions and magical artifacts. His body dissolved in a flash of blue light. Everyone understood. It was a teleporting crystal. Ta confirmed that she prepared those crystals for emergency evacuation, in case of complete failure, so that everyone can return to the capital. They could not be kept in battle, not to work accidentally. She handed over all party crystals to the newcomer. She fell silent. Ed was stunned. Has he really frightened? Could the person who passed the whole demonic world with them could just betray it? Or maybe it was an initial plan. Join a broken party, gain trust, and disappear at the right moment. Ed's heart was burning with anger. But Ta sighed. She did not know the true intentions of that man. After the betrayal, they did not have the choice. They had to fight without support. During the battle, she screamed Alexis. He coughed with blood. In the event of the worst, one teleporting crystal was built in the heart of his armor. The last chance for salvation. The hero had to survive at any cost. Whatever the situation is, the world needs a hero. He was hope. She begged it to use the crystal. Alexis was the election of the gods, the prince of the great state. But he just apologized. She reminded, "You are our leader, our choice." But he could not accept salvation at the expense of his comrades. This contradicted everything he believed in. And finally, he made a choice. The crystal flew into piles. Ta reached out, but it was late. She did not have time to touch him. Tears flowed by the river. In the end, he chose pride instead. Not salvation, but ideals. But it's not surprising. Alexis was always like that. Ready to make the wrong choice if he meet his principles. But he was not the only one. He was not alone, could not betray his comrades to survive himself. The tears Tia rolled even more. Ed looked at her calmly and asked if she had calmed down. Ta barely nodded, apologizing and thanking it. Ed thoughtfully lowered his eyes. Ta began to tell what was then. After the events, she was taken to a hidden room inside the royal castle of Notland. There she was met with suspicion. She was asked, what happened to Prince Alexis? Why did she return alone? Did she stole the teleport crystal? And then the name came from the back, Lunarisha. The king himself came out and asked her straight, what about his son? She told everything without hiding anything. The king listened to her, and then ordered, disappear. Hide away from all. It was officially announced. The detachment of the hero died in a demonic world. Ed was surprised, but later realized. The decision was logical. Alexis chose the lives of his comrades by sacrificing the mission. Ed knew. That is what he did. But from the point of view of the hero, it was a mistake. He would be sentenced. Despite his good intentions, Alexis only took care of TA survived. And what about? The detachment was replaced. Ed realized. The king fulfilled his son's last will. Ta added that it was forbidden to participate in the next 3 expeditions to the demonic world. Ed's eyes expanded. Expeditions? Ta asked in surprise. Did he know nothing? Where did he, say, lived all this time? Ed just laughed and Ta smiled a little. The Alliance of Nations organized 3 rescue missions, attempts to extract Alexis. Although everyone knew that the armies would not be enough, they tried anyway. Hope is what they lacked. Without a new hero, they relied on military power. And each attempt ended in defeat. She remembered that her presence in this city is a state secret. Then I looked at Ed. How did you find me? He replied that he recently received a magical artifact that allows you to look for people. He became interested. and he checked what happened to everyone. But when he was looking for Alexis and Gonzo, there were no answers. Tia silently accepted the truth. Finally, she reassured again, but added, "Everything was well. I was able to accept it. No one would be able to survive against such an army." Ed just looked at her, and in his eyes, sadness was read. Suddenly, Ta said she had finished. She lifted the cape sheer. Embroidered flowers decorated the fabric. "How are you?" she asked. "Sweetheart," Ed replied, smiling. But suddenly something worried him. The earth shuddered. He shuddered. The air was filled with strange vibration. He looked out. Something was wrong, and then he saw it, his gaze frozen. Before him is a younger dragon, just here. Did he get lost, leaving the mountains? It rarely happens. Ta ran after him and asked why he came out. Ed began to invent an excuse, but she interrupted him. "Come back to the house," she assured. "She will handle." The dragon chased the canine and exhaled the flames directly in its direction. Ed said he would be able to handle such an enemy now, but he did not have time to do anything. He was thrown back. He gave up with a swing. The flames of the dragon roar in the air, covering the space where Tia just stood. But she replied. A huge wave of water rose, forming a barrier and stopping. Ed looked impressed. Water wall? Tia will not allow anyone to die anymore. This time it will protect him. She began to read the spell, called the Silver Lunar Blade that twists the wind in a spiral. Then, Green Lunar Blade. The 6th perfume feathers gathered and created a defense that reflected the dim light. She called her own name, Lunarisha, and proclaimed, "The manifestation of a triune sleep." A powerful wave of energy gathered and hit the dragon, one devastating blow, and the creature fell. Ta lowered her hand. Ed was stunned. One blow is instant destruction. The spell was so piercing that the scales pierced and cut the bones from the inside. Ed was amazed, how stronger it has become since their separation. Ta told him and asked him to leave. Her body trembled. She was breathing hard. Her breath was shot down. Ed took a step to her and asked what had happened. He froze when Ta asked to believe her. Her hand trembled. She smiled through a fragmentary breathing. She confessed she was fascinated with battle. It took a long time from her last battle, and she just wanted to make the impression, like everything is fine. But her appearance, shaky movements, superficial breathing, said otherwise. She just waved, joking that she lost her shape, and she dressed to like Ed. Then she advised him to relax, teasing that he was always so tense, and with a slight tone disappeared in her room. She rolled his goodbye to his farewell, climbing a ladder. Ed remained in place with anxious thoughts. She is a former member of the hero detachment. Everything will be fine with her. True, her condition seemed bad, but TIA was always strong. But in his head, her cry, "Flow from here." What did she mean? Ed decided not to think about it. At first, he had to deal with the dragon's body. He wanted to remove him to the treasure of the traveler. Things were not damaged there, but just in case he was going to cut the meat. But only he began to prepare as a heavy stroke came across the house. Ed has frozen. Something was wrong. He called her by name. He was engulfed by anxious misunderstanding. There was no answer. Ed rushed inside and ran to the ladder leading up. He began to talk something, climbing, but stopped. She lay on the floor. He froze in horror. She called him poorly. He rushed to her, touched, and felt it. Something was catastrophically wrong. Her skin changed. The scales appeared on the body. They were slowly spreading like a disease. Black bruises pulled from the chest, wrapping his neck, arms, torso, and legs. It seemed as if the body was rotting alive from the inside. She whispered something about her clothes. Ed, shocked, gave her what she asked. Sunlight poured out of the window and lay on her exhausted body. She dressed slowly. The voltage slept a little. Ed was silently watching her every breath. She whispered, "She is a little better." She didn't want to hide anything, but now he had to know. During the battles with Alexis, she used the forbidden elfin equipment. It was a secret technique that greatly enhanced the magic of spirits. But the price was cruel. It was necessary to mix magic with its vital power. Ed has frozen. Life? How fuel? She nodded. She really burned her own life. His mind was circling. She looked normal. Just. Where is the sudden decline? And suddenly he realized. That spell. A powerful blow that destroyed the dragon. It used the last residue of her life on him. She confessed with a light smile. Otherwise you would die. She had no choice. Only this thought managed her. She was sure he would not stand. But now she realized she did not know how strong ED became in her absence. She explained that her magical reserves have long been exhausted. She was only kept with her clothes.
That clothing was imbued with the power of the sacred tree. His magic supported her life until she wore it.
But when she removed it and used the last spell, everything was cut off. Magic came out of control. Her body could not stand. And that is why the younger dragon felt it. The protection against the tree disappeared. In Ed's head, everything turned over. All this happened because of him. He came to make sure she was safe, come with faith in himself. And how did it end?
He blamed himself for everything. Ta saw this look, and gently addressed him. Don't look like this.
She knew that her life was short, as for Elf. But she had no harm. She lived truly. She lived a real life, with friendship, purpose, with Alexis and comrades nearby. And now, at the very end, she saw Ed again. This was enough for her. In her last section, there was no regrets, only gratitude. Ed, frightened, interrupted her, asked not to talk goodbye. They just met again. But when he looked out the window, he realized the enemy was already approaching. They came faster than expected. Ta returned to him, begging for fleeing, but Ed strongly refused. She tried again, but in vain. He acknowledged. From the outside, he was the same as 10 years ago. Maybe even he sometimes believed in it. But his body remained young as the day he was kicked out, but inside it is another. After separating with her, he did not stop. He trained, survived, growing. In 100 years, he passed 100 worlds, collected knowledge, strength, skills. He is no longer the one who was kicked out. He met many people, and every meeting is a farewell. But he went on, and what he saw and gained far exceeded her idea. He became strong enough to fight, protect, change fate. And now, he is here for her. To protect it, whatever it costs. Ghoul came from the street. The monsters were already approaching. Ed's face changed. The heat has disappeared. The look became cold, complete determination. Tia again begged him to flee. But he did not retreat. He won't leave her. Never again. He has already made his choice. Even in such a situation, she tried to protect him. It was a cut of heart. But what could he do? No victory will return the dead, will not restore her years, does not cure her body. He understood it. But despite this, it will not allow everything to end it. If some miracle is still a miracle, though the little chance of returning the days they once shared, he will grasp it. He raised his hand and caused the power of his bloody weapons. The ancient blacksmith skill answered. Mach, and the circle of deadly force cut off the whole army of monsters. The air howled the power of magic. The monster fell tens. Ta frozen in silence. Ed stood among the dead and then stopped. He remembered something. This power. No, he almost forgot. Skill. He had one still undisclosed skill. One time, maybe. She was for that. If it was the skill of exile, so it may allow him to return. Start everything again. In the memoirs of Tia, she remembered the day of expulsion. She regretted. She never thought Ed would go so far. But she could no longer travel next to him. Alexis then joked, "Too difficult plan to get rid of one burden." And Ta replied, "Otherwise he won't let go, and I will no longer be able to protect him." She was sure that he would hate her, but even so, she wanted Ed to survive, to see the world in peace, and now, Ed proclaimed, "It's the end." Returning to her, he asked, "I was able to protect you?" Tia, barely smiling, asked, "Did you really become so strong?" Ed replied that since he was expelled, he trained again. Ta nodded, and she said his name. Then she asked if he could take her to the border of the demonic world. Will it be able to? And even if not, she still understands. Ed asked in surprise that she was in mind, and then stroked her on the head. "You can count on me. Even if the whole world goes to the scrapes, I will bring you." Her eyes were swore with tears. She laughed quietly, and Ed silently decided not to ask what was waiting for her there on the edge. He knew so. He looked at her. "Does you not hurt?" The path would be difficult, but asked her to stay. Ta nodded. If something is wrong, she promised to say. And in his thoughts there was only one thing. Fulfill her last desire. They went. It was a death night. Around, the fields are covered with monsters. Between the rock towers, silence. Asturifus is here, Ta confirmed. She asked to put her on the ground. It was here that Alexis once used the transfer crystal on it. She never thought she would come back here. She thanked Ed. I wonder if Alexis and Gonzo are now watching them. Ed was much stronger than she imagined. In one night, he passed through demonic lands that were once almost impassable for them. He may be stronger than Alexis himself. She slightly smiled. The boy she wanted to protect became the one who could protect her. And if she did not intervene in that scene, the peace that came after the fall of the ruler of demons could continue. Ed wanted to say something, but she just whispered his name. She thanked everything again. I would like to fulfill his desire. But Ed reassured. His dream is close. She asked, "What is the dream?" He replied, "He was not home for a long time. Ta also wanted to see his home." Ed smiled. "You are always desirable. Mom will be delighted." She laughed. "Indeed. Well, maybe I will take a souvenir. Daddy bow. Mom, a good dress. But if he returns with wealth, there will be fools that will try to rob him. Then he will introduce them to Tia." She smiled. And she remembered. His expulsion made him capable of everything. He could kill a demon, become a hero, and later the kingdom. But her eyes were already closed. Her hand fell, the flower she kept into the sky, taken away by the wind. Ed wondered bitterly. All this is part of the divine design? For centuries he was only a paw. Maybe it should be. This is what he was given, these bizarre skills. And if so he will dance to the last breath. In return, he asked only one. Take my past, future, all that remained, and allow one desire. He activated his last exile skill. Boundless one, off-right. A pillar of light flew into the sky, piercing clouds and space. The glow was dazzling, and then silence, emptiness. He opened his eyes. Around, a table, a chair, a solid white void, not a dream. He called someone, but no, he felt, it's not a dream. And yet he did not understand where he found himself. He was abducted? He died? No. He made himself calm down. He remembered the ladder. The task of that day is to destroy mole, like creatures that destroyed the fields. After lunch, he went to get a nest in the forest, and then, at the very end, he saw the door. Ed shuddered, seeing him. A book? Simple, white. What is still a wonder. Then everything came into place. He was expelled from his native world. To return, he had to join the heroic party in 100 different worlds, and be expelled from everyone. Only then, a return. What an absurdity, he felt. There will not be that. But what is the heroism to him? He is an ordinary mercenary, and even dream of joining the characters is pointless. But then, something was lit. A ball that looks like a crystal. Inside, message. Touch and you get power, suspiciously. Blinds, but in his soul he shouted home, cursed it all. But I understood. We need to move. He gathered with the spirit. He reached out, touched, and then voice. Not ears, but inside the skull. Flagmaker is a skill that will lead to the hero. Strange but extremely useful. And something else. Presence. Someone, somewhere. His eyes expanded, as if lightning were hit straight into his forehead. The explosion of consciousness, the flow of other people's memories filled his brain. But this is not his memory. Life from other worlds, other people, and everywhere. Exile. 10, 20, 40, 80. Every exile is a new outbreak of pain. The head will be lined. Enough! But he did not give up. Because of this chaos, the past could be changed. Memory, strength, pain. Everything was mixed, threatening to break it from the inside. And then in this storm, one face floated. Tia. Here's the answer. Here is his true desire. He hit his fist on the table. He did it. He outlined God himself. He played and won. In exchange for a one-time demand, it was given force outside the logic, the power of the 101st world. The greatest skill of the exile, so powerful that even the divine could not recognize it. Another party, the blessing of the second circle. All the skills, all the memory of the future I, are transmitted to him here and now, in this white space. But it will never happen again. Miracles do not happen twice. He smiled. And one day, enough. He grabbed his shoulder, leveled his breath. He is ready, now, invincible. He went through exile in every world, and he knew what was waiting at the end, a pathetic finale. But this time, everything will be different. He will create a world where everyone will lift the glasses, laughing together, alive. His second start began, and he again in the primary world. The man argues, demanding joining. The hero, calm and restrained, asks to lower his voice. He regrets, but says, at this stage, such a force is not needed. However, it hints, it can become a carrier of equipment. His look is cold. Around the crowd, the hero is recognized, admired. Someone notices that this is a third refusal. Another. What can he try?
The woman laughs. They say, "Which of us will be taken?" The other is charming. "And suddenly the hero will entrust my life to my comrades?" Everyone laughs. And suddenly, among the crowd, there are eyes that shine. The hero notices it, rotates. He looks at us? No, it's not about us. No, it looks at me. And here Ed appears. The voice is sure, the gait is straight. "I am the strongest loader and the strongest sword." Well, what, the hero, is this candidate interested in? The hero looked at him in surprise, did not recognize immediately. When did he appear? The crowd whispered. Who was this guy? Even the hero became more serious. This is the fourth contender a day, and clearly a stranger. Ed himself thought that time to bring a little intrigue. He introduced himself as a traveler without a goal, an ordinary adventure. The first meeting was commemorated in the memoirs. Then he pleaded with the hero to accept him in the party, even agreed to work for free. He was taken. Cargo carrier. But it was a mistake. Such do not decide anything. Now he knew. We needed to strive for the highest. The hero skeptical. How can he be beating if all the equipment pulls? Ed was ready to answer. He challenged. He would win the hero even with a load. Maybe it convinces it? He understood the risks. Last time everything went wrong. But this time, he is also a sword. And it's not just words. Even Alexis recognized his strength. The air broke the sound, the fork flew up. In a moment, an explosion. Alexis has accepted the call. If Ed will withstand fights with load, then you can speak. Ed agreed. He obeys Alexis. The taverna owner was worried. A little more and the building would be demolished. Ed gave a sign. The hero can attack the first. But even before the end of the thought, Alexis had already rushed forward. Ed barely had time to beat the blow. The fork with a loud bell faced the sword. Ed kept calm, though it was suddenly. Alexis was annoyed but admitted. This guy knows something. The hero threw a hint of a cold steak. Ed jokingly answered, but he just waved contemptuously. Alexis acted on the principle. Anyone is indifferent to him. The hero should accept challenges. After all, to demonstrate your power is the duty of the hero. This is the main reason for people's trust. It was the belief in his power that gave hope for the victory over the demon lord. Only those who were not afraid to show power in the eyes of everyone could get into the hero party. If he doubts Ed, he will never receive recognition. Alexis clicked with his fingers, and he started a new stage of battle. Ed noticed. The steak was cold. It was a sign. He is no longer just a loader. He wants to prove his combat capacity. The hero increased the intensity. He acknowledged, Ed is not so simple. And again went on the offensive. The sword waved sideways. Ed evaded. Alexis did not stop. Pressed again and again. Ed still kept a plate with a steak, reflecting at the same time. But every blow blocked more precisely, more confident. Ed mentally smiled. The hero clearly did not expect such, but it was not his full strength. Alexis confirmed the guess. He changed the rack, leaving his sword back. He was preparing for a real reception. Ed kept breathing. It was the corporate identity of the hero. His sword has already begun to crack. The cheap iron blade could not withstand the load. His time was almost exhausted. In the full battle, the steak took off from the plate, fell to the ground. An unpredictable victim. Ed realized. The hero became serious. Alexis warned, if he does not close his mouth, he will show what a real blow of the hero is. Monthly sword. Ed instantly weighed the options. He could activate the inaccessible fortress to block the attack. But this was not enough if he sought recognition. To be equal among the heroes, he had to meet a blade, a technique that he honed for 100 years. Alexis looked straight into his eyes, made a sign. Ed concentrated, calculating the angle of attack and prepared a counter-struggle, reflecting the hero's movement. He will move the vector of force. It seemed like Ed was falling from heaven. Alexis watched silently until he was landing firmly on his feet. Despite the broken sword, Ed restrained. He sighed with relief. Even the debris became a weapon. The audience exploded around. For the first time, someone was able to stand in front of the hero. Voices were heard among the crowd. One girl, looking, admires enthusiastically that Ed was also very pretty. The girlfriend joked. Apparently this is her type. And someone suggested that his name is Ed. One man watched with surprise. Such a talent for a common man? And it was at this point that he saw Ed copied in the wreckage. But his thoughts were interrupted by the dialogue of Ed and Alexis. Ed accused the hero. If this technique was directed at someone else, he would have died. Alexis answered sharply. He never acts without calculation. But their dispute interrupted a loud laughter. The giant said that if the hero's blow was part of the selection, he would not have passed. Ed already wanted to shy away from the old one, but stopped. He recognized him. It was Gonzo, A monk, Gonzo explained. Before Alexis went in full force, he gave him a signal to intervene in case of danger. It was a controlled risk. Then he smiled and asked if Ed remembered who he was. Of course, the legendary goal fighter whose hands are not equal to anyone, Gonzo confirmed by demonstrating muscles. Alexis added that he is the main healer of their team. Their conversation was interrupted by a woman who came with dissatisfaction. She was sure they had to go. Alexis appealed to the explanation. He answered calmly. Ed froze, hearing her voice. Alexis said he just showed his greatness to put a brazen common man in place. The woman was shocked. It was a serious reception. She turned to Gunzo. Why didn't I stop? He waved. Not so scary. For Ed, all this was too emotional. Although it should be their first conversation, the heart is brief with a familiar sound. She came to him, worrying. Was he not injured? He looked at her silently. Her voice, face. It was she, Lunarisha, the elven witch of spirits, and she traveled with Alexis. Ed called himself a sword and cargo carrier. Seeing her smile, his heart could not stand it. The tears flowed on the cheeks. Ta asked confusedly. Why did he cry? Did she say something? But everything was simple for Ed. She is alive and stands in front of him. She returned to Alexis. What did you do? He just spread his hands. Nothing unusual. Everything is within the normal range. He is so strong, it is forgiven. Maybe he is really outside the usual. Ta quarreled him for such statements. Ed stood up for the hero's defense. For a prostak, as he is, exactly what his name was called in the hero's party was already a shock. Ti gently asked if she did not really offend him. Maybe something for him? Ed asked only one thing. To give him his name once again. If not difficult. She said his name, Ed. And that was enough for him to become himself again. Ta smiled and called him a munning. And Ed thought, did you really hear her name from her was so happy? Alexis watched them carefully. Not surprisingly, Ed was crying, he said. Ed did not understand what it was about. Alexis pointed to a crushed plate, the one that Ed so carefully protected. The steak was destroyed. Ed was horrified. He wept again, mourning the death of the meat, breaking the lunar sword. Alexis jokingly said that it was his steak. Ta was indignant. What, they will still not accept it? Even after he compared to Alexis in force? Alexis doubted. But Ta insisted. He used special equipment. Even the crowd supported her, confirming she saw. Alexis, already annoyed, asked why she was so protecting Ed. After all, they have so much. Ta enthusiastically stated, once he is strong, why not bring him with him? Alexis glanced. Did she forget who the hero is here? She called him a bore and brush. Then she turned to Gonzo. He honestly confessed. He doesn't care, but asking someone to be both a carrier of things and a fighter is too difficult. Alexis was right in this. Ed quietly swayed. So I wanted to learn muscle art directly in Gonzo. It moved it. And he solemnly stated, I grow from this sprout of a real warrior. Alexis called him a muscular fool. But he acknowledged, Ed's technique is striking. In fact, besides him, Ed can be the strongest of all present. Alexis threw something in his direction and finally revealed the truth. They do not need new fighters. They were looking for a reliable cargo carrier. If Ed copes with both roles, he is in the case. But first, another test. Buy everything you need. If he is really the best carrier in the world, let him prove it. Ed caught a coin. His eyes flashed with determination. Alexis specified, how does he plan to spend money? How will you deliver everything back? And he called him, go, show that you can. Ed replied with a smile, rely on me, I am powerful. Gonzo noted, it looks reliable. And Tia wished luck. She believed in him. Ed sighed with relief and looked at the coins. There were 10. At first he thought it was silver, but no, these were gold coins. It embarrassed him. Earlier Alexis gave him 10 silver. It turns out that now he got much more. Is it a sign of trust? Even 1 gold would have enough. At this point, someone remembered the famous statement about this city. Surprise. There are such places in this city? It was Tia. She asked if he was looking for something, but she was annoyed. Something touched her. She indicated that he first turned to her in a simple way and then suddenly became polite. Ed explained, for him she is Sanpai. She waved her hand. Just call me Tia. Ed agreed and asked why she decided to go with him. She answered straight. Curiosity. She wanted to see what he would do with money, and she asked him not to ceremony. Ed doubted. Is it reasonable to follow a stranger only because of curiosity? Ta shrugged.
but he withstood the match with Alexis. And this is a lot. Although the appearance is misleading, it is also much stronger than it seems. Ed looked at her awkward. Ta added she just felt that he was a good person. Ed was puzzled. Yes, Tia was always friendly, but this openness seemed too unusual to him. Previously, she did not behave so much. Maybe she also remembers what happened in another life. At this time, Gonzo approached Alexis. He was worried that Ta had gone with Ed. Although he did not believe that he would do something bad, it was still restless. Alexis replied, "If she already decided, it is useless to ban something." She still does not listen. Such a free nature of this Elfu. Gonzo is boiling, agreeing. Alexis asked if everything was really going on. He confirmed. The idea was surprisingly cunning. Alongside, the old grandfather apologized and offered to repair the furniture. Alexis said with suspicion, "Does the old man hint that he is not able to repair everything?" Starting to explain, my grandfather was interrupted. "When he did harm, you have to answer." Alexis said he did it voluntarily. Grandfather accepted it. Alexis looked at the table that had just made. Surprisingly, it turned out quite skillfully. His guess was confirmed. This guy was special. The crowd approved, praising both the product and the taste of the hero. They welcomed him as a hero, just such a skill in waiting for him. Alexis said Gonzo that it was time to move. He was disturbed. Meanwhile, Tae looked closely at Ed. She noticed that he was conceived. Ed also thought why TA was so easy to communicate with him, as if he knew him for a long time. Her care seemed excessive, and he could not understand why. Ta thought, and could not give a clear answer. She looked at him seriously. She began to explain. Elves live much longer than people. She has been over 100 years. During this time there were many events, and even more forgotten. But some memories do not want to lose. The elves cover them in the very essence of their soul. Not even having supernatural power. Due to death and rebirth, these moments remain with them, as if burned on the heart. Sometimes meeting someone for the first time, they feel a wave of familiar nostalgia. The same feeling covered her when she saw Ed. Ed wondered, is it like déjà vu? But then, it should not only be in elves. He asked if she really believed in that. She confessed, not sure, but it seemed to her that before they became who they were now, they had already met, and had a special connection. Ed agreed. If this is true, it will not retreat. He will gladly accept her company. She looked in surprise, and he just smiled, let him go as he had. Ta laughed, saying that he was completely unreliable. But in his heart the question remained. Does the soul really remember? Does she accompany someone through reincarnation? He had no answer. But the very fact of his existence proved. The future has already happened. He was here and now, with all his memories and skills. So somewhere in this world the soul could also wake up. But how to prove it all? Finally they reached the place. They stopped, impressed. Ed pointed to the roof. Was he not damaged by the moonsword? One of the locals confirmed. Yes, he wanted to repair him for a long time. Alexis glanced. Everything turned out to be easier than expected. His thoughts were confirmed. This guy is really special. Ed and Tia could not believe. Alexis returned to them. Ta said with delight, "Ed is truly impressive." They noticed no cargo is visible. Suddenly something was glowing before Alexis and Gonzo. Alexis immediately recognized. It was equipment. It began to unpack. 10 sets of provisions for 3 months and 10 more, with an annual shelf life. Since, according to TIA, the locals did not live fully here, Ed brought only canned food. Gonzo intervened. Where did he have such a bag? How did he get it all? Ed explained calmly. The bag is a magical artifact from ruins. Inside, more space than outside. Alexis became interested in hearing about the magical thing. Ed confessed that he does not fully understand how she works. But from the moment he took it, he could only use it. And no one guessed. All this is a lie. He added, if someone else holds a bag, it becomes ordinary. Ta added that she even tried to climb into her, but living creatures did not pass. Sorry. Alexis laughed. He said that she behaved like a cat. Ed mentally sighed. When the moment comes to be expelled, it will be better to say that all this is thanks to artifacts. In fact, the bag worked because of his unique exile skill, the treasure of the traveler. He installed the point of access to the repository in the bag, and now he could easily give it to a magical object. Even the hero does not guess that everything is just a cunning disguised illusion. From the curiosity, Alexis asked how many things the bag contains. Ed replied somewhere as 2 or 3 warehouses. In fact, he did not know the boundaries of her space.
His own appreciation is global scale, but he was not going to talk about it. Taya exclaimed enthusiastically. Even this volume is enough to travel without replenishment. Isn't that a miracle? Alexis twisted from her tone. Why does she behave so smart? She got another item from the bag and threw it to the ground with loud lump. It was a magical artifact that created water, proof that even large objects can pass through a small hole of the bag. Alexis asked if Ta had already told Ed, and confirmed that he was aware. Alexis noted that such an artifact should cost a whole fortune, at least 5 gold. Tia was stunned. He addressed Ed. Why did he bought it? Ed explained. While there is artifact in Manu, the water will be everywhere, even in the desert. Gonzo jokingly pointed out. TIA could also cause water, but Ed seriously replied. If she becomes ill or injured, we'll be left without a source. Alexis acknowledged that it was a good remark. To rest only one person on survival is dangerous. Due to the reliability of TIA, everyone lost vigilance. She was offended. Is she just a utility for them? Alexis closed his eyes, sighed, and recognized. Ed's judgment and his actions deserve respect. He got up. Taya again repeated, Isn't it cool? Alexis fell again. Why is she so smart? And here Gonzo stated. He personally helps Ed reach the peak of physical form, and even joked about exercises with adamantium burden. Ed was surprised that he still remembered it. At this point, Alexis noticed something. Claz was heard. He grabbed the sword and asked, Ed bought the sword. Alexis suggested that Ed would spend most of the money on a new strong weapon. But this was too cheap. Did he resort to? Ed explained. It is not a battle sword, but a temporary one to get to the next city. Alexis was surprised. Next sword? What did he mean? Ed said, in addition to experience and training, he gathered many treasures. This is the second chance, the opportunity to start everything over. Alexis asked, what does he lead to? Ed just smiled. He was already half a year ahead of all others. The detachment of the heroes went to the city of miners and blacksmiths. Reuniting. Chimneys rising on the horizon and the air was imbued with the smell of metal. Tia, looking at all this, imagined the legendary swords. But she was wrong. This city was primarily obtained by weapons, but a table silver. Metal cacophony was heard in the air. Ta joked, maybe the treasure of Ed is a magical knife that makes food delicious? Ed looked in surprise. I did not understand what she was. Subsequently, they found themselves indoors called Silver Oven. Alexis got up and asked Ed to set out his plan. He explained, everything is based on a reliable source, according to the information received. The Rock Jr. settled in the mine. The hall was instantly tied. Rockworms absorb all silver, leaving destructive tunnels. This can lead to a collapse of an extraordinary scale, Ed remembered. During his previous life, the worm caused a collapse in 3 months. Then many people were killed, and the city fell despair and decline. They arrived late then. It took another 3 months, and the tragedy has already happened. But now everything will be different. This time Ed will act in advance. Alexis asked, why did he not inform Power? After all, knights should already be on the road. But Ed did not have evidence, only words. And most importantly, he wanted them to destroy the worm. He laughed. It was not just about prevention of catastrophe. Alexis looked at him. Something began to come. Is Ed the treasure that Ed said about? He just smiled without confirming anything. But this silence said more than words. Tia, interested, turned to Gonzo. What do rocky worms have to do? He shrugged and advised to ask directly. But Tia was hesitant. She did not want to interrupt Ed's serious conversation with Alexis. Alexis asked if they realized what a mithril was. Ta confidently replied, it is a rare metal that perfectly conducts magic and stores manu. It is used to create powerful magic equipment and strengthened weapons. And, she added, he shines very beautifully. Alexis laughed and asked Ed to explain properly. Her answer was not false, but incomplete. In fact, the process is more complicated. Silver, for a long time under the action of powerful magic, turns into a mithril. Taya quickly analyzed everything. So the mine was soaked in mana? Ed denied. She wondered, maybe the source of mana is the June itself. Ed said she is halfway to truth, and asked, what do rockworms eat? She replied, metals, including ore. And what metal is being extracted in this city? Silver. Then where is this concentration of magic? From the worm itself. Ed explained that to make silver a mitagil, it should be in a magical environment for a long time. If the worm eats silver and its body is saturated with mana, then the ideal conditions for transformation, directly in it. More precisely, in the stomach.
Therefore, mithril is not a fossil, but a digested and magically saturated silver, left abundant. Ta frozen, remembering how recently she was fond of the beauty of mithril. Alexis returned to the point. Ed wants to defeat the worm to get a mithril. But why? Ed replied without hesitation, to expose the best weapon for the hero's party. Meanwhile, one of the men at the mine doubted. Is it safe to return? The other tried to reassure him, but suddenly the older shouted at them, who allowed to return. Everyone had to leave the mine. One of the miners reminded that the hero himself gave the evacuation order to evacuate. Since then, access to the mine has been closed a day. Everyone had to leave her immediately. The losses compensate. But what does the hero's team do inside? In the depths of the Gonzo mine doubted, is there a worm there? Was too quiet. Alexis suggested, perhaps the power of the creature is still ahead, if Ed has told the truth. Alexis asked Tia if she was still angry, but she reminded, mithril can be obtained in the usual way. Why this disgusting method? Ed admitted. It was a little reflected, but also interesting. Isn't it better to just buy a mithril? She asked. Ed explained. Yes, but Maril from the worm is special. She did not understand what. Alexis explained. Silver, passing through the acid of the stomach of the worm, is cleared of all impurities. This is how pure mithril appears. From such a mithril you can create an exceptional quality weapon. Ta asked if Alexis wanted something to himself. He waved. He already has a holy sword. Tia was offended. Alexis turned to Ed again. Are they on the right track? Ed confirmed. Everything is due to his exile skills. Akashi compass. Gonzo praised. Conveniently, a compass leading to legendary creatures. It is a pity that only ED can use it. He laughed. They say, just found in a magic bag. And he thought, that is the part of the truth of. In fact, he could only enjoy this skill. Tia, intrigued, asked, where are those ruins where he found a bag and a compass? Ed answered the site. It's a secret. They continued the way. Finally, the compass gave a signal. They came. Ta looked around. A deadlock? Perhaps the worm behind the wall? Ed confirmed. They will have to break through the rocks. Gonzo was already ready to show her muscles, but Ed stopped it. He would not have to dig. He will do everything himself. Ta was surprised. How exactly? Ed approached the wall and activated the skill of the exile. A circular reflector. Gonzo did not understand what was happening. Ta is frightened. Ed will be injured. But he reassured her. This skill allows you to accumulate strength and release it in the form of a shockwave. Ed began to hit the wall with his feet, accumulating energy. Ta, in a panic, turned to Alexis, asked to stop him. He restrained her. We must see what will happen next. Ed gathered all the accumulated force at one point. He hit the wall with all his strength, silently calling the creation to appear. The earth trembled under his feet. Alexis immediately realized it was time to act, and called everyone to be full of combat readiness. Get ready for battle, said the team strongly. He raised his head from the bottom, and hearing the sound, stood in a protective rack, closing others. For me, he exclaimed. The hum was splitting the cave, and it became clear. The monster finally appeared. In this chaos, Ed dramatically attracted Ta, covering her body. He was preparing to take a blow. Gonzo caused a powerful spell, a fiery sphere wrapped in ritual words that smoke everything on the way. It was a powerful magical attack. Ed mentioned that the sword is not very effective against such enemies, and Alexis agreed in silence. Ta began her witchcraft. She spoke the name of Linery, calling for a volcanic lance. The magical weapon hit the target, lifting a powerful explosion from which the walls of the mine trembled. The worm screamed, clapped in agony, and froze. But Gonzo warned, not everything. The essence tried to escape through the ceiling. Ed predicted it. Already in the air, he aimed from above and mocked the worm. Do you think? Forget. I will not let you escape, he said mentally, getting ready for the final blow. Ed activated the magical technique, clouding the blade. His sword lit up with fire. A powerful explosion again illuminated the mine. Tia and others lifted their heads in surprise. Ed hanged in the air. His figure glowed with an elongated sword. Gonzo asked, Is it an end? But Tia was alarmed. She shouted Gonzo so that he would help you get Ed. He nodded, and suddenly a wet, wicked sound appeared. Ed emerged from the inside of the worm, from head to heels covered with mucus. He groaned from the stench, stinking like a spoiled fish. Alexis smiled. Well, you were eaten. Ed shrugged, expected but no less disgusting. Ta rushed to him and hugged firmly, in tears, thinking that he was injured. It's not my blood.
Ed reassured her, laughing. It's a worm.
Idiot, she exclaimed. You could die! But I'm alive, Ed replied. If it weren't for the risk, he would have escaped. And he remembered. Ta was also worried about the first time. She was always like that. Her care has not changed. She is all the same. Ed apologized for the excitement, but explained. He trusted himself and acted as he was necessary. He swore he would become even stronger so that she is no longer worried. The danger has passed, and he lifted the prey, a huge piece of pure mitral. Tia Huhiva from the beauty of Maril, even knowing his origin. Gonzo was surprised, such a huge worm and the material is so small. But Alexis denied. It's more than enough. I have never seen a metil of this quality. Gonzo was shocked. Ta asked how much it costs. Alexis replied, you can buy a whole castle for this. Everyone was silent. He specified, such material is the only one of a kind. To use it properly, you need the best blacksmith. Ta couldn't believe that one piece was costing so much. And Gonzo only dreamed. How many training shells could be bought? Alexis sighed and ordered him to calm down again. Alexis, looking at Maril, asked Ed, did he find that blacksmith capable of withdrawing weapons from such material? Ed was surprised that he had broken the topic, and suddenly confessed. He himself owns a blacksmith's business and was going to forge in person. Alexis is literally numb from herd. They finally arrived in the smithy. ED was enthusiastically inspecting equipment and tools. He asked, can I use them? The owner of the forge nodded. After all, the hero has already paid everything and also saved the city. Honestly, the man felt that he had to give the forge for free. But Alexis did not agree. It would be wrong to accept such generosity. The affected owner noted which hero is still noble. Alexis turned to Ed. It's time to listen carefully. The place was prepared exactly as he asked. Ed can now start. But Alexis warned, if Ed approaches the case carelessly, everything they did will go to naught. But he believed in him. Ed nodded with confidence. A look between them flashed, a look of common determination. Alexis with a gesture gave a sign of Gonzo and Tia to go. But going out, he noticed, Tia looks at Ed with a blush on his cheeks. It seems not a joke, Alexis commented. Ta shuddered. He remembered how TIA was well recognized. Interviews and during the procurement she was not mistaken. But maybe she really liked Ed a little more than her? Tia asked. He really thinks? Why? Alexis did not answer anything, only looked at her silently. Later, in Taverna, the characters were sitting by the bar counter, discussing events. After a few mugs, Gonzo looked at Alexis. Do you seriously reproach TIA for sympathy for Ed? In fact, Gonzo continued, you are most attached to him, because you led the whole party into this city only through it. And now you trust him too much. Doesn't it talk about something more? After all, it was always difficult for you to trust others, Gonzo added. Alexis looked thoughtfully at his glass, and finally confessed. He watched Ed from the beginning. Ed is not only a skilled sword that is equal to him, but also has mysterious artifacts. His knowledge of monsters, magic, the world are invaluable even for Alexis. Maybe yes, he really likes Ed. A little. Gonzo laughed. It's so similar to you. Don't be shy. Meanwhile, only Ed and Tia remained in the forge. He offered her to relax, to look at forging, probably boring. Ta smiled. I did not come for forging. I want to see you. Ed was surprised. Are you constantly looking at me? She nodded gently. Just when I'm next to you, it seems that you are capable of everything, Tia said. But it's not, Ed whispered. There are many things I couldn't do. I lost the most expensive, what seemed simple. I could not keep again and again. But this time, everything will be different. I was given a second chance, and I will use it. Everything he learned with his own hands will not betray. I go myself my future. I will change the finale. I create a sword capable of changing the fate. Not knowing it himself, Ed drew attention. One single eye watched with the shadow. Subsequently, another presence approached him. Sign, stretching and complaining of stiffness in the body. The eye reported. The hero arrived, defeated stoneworms and won Maril. Sanus thoughtfully muttered, pure mitril, so this complicates the situation. It is good that he does not have to solve it personally. His task was only intelligence. So above all, he had to pass the report to the Lord of the Demons. In his memory, he passed the memory. Even before the beginning of the second circle, he carried Tia on his back and asked her about a carrier that fled. Who he was? Tia replied that at first glance the man seemed ordinary. She even called his name. But at that moment, the loud bell blocked her words. She only added that he had a very expressive nose. Ta woke up. Again, the same dream is a life that never had her. She saw herself next to Ed, in a strange but very close world. She did not understand why she saw this dream again and again, because she knew Ed for a very long time. Ed noticed she woke up and apologized. Ta smiled gently and also asked for forgiveness. She was dormant. Ed suggested that she lie down normally, but she refused. In her thoughts, the first moment when Ed, seeing her, did not restrain her tears. She did not say it aloud, but that moment struck her to the depths of her soul. Being near him was amazingly cozy, warm. She said she would be a little more. She just wants to look. Ed smiled and continued to work, wiping his sweat. But suddenly he remembered something important. He forgot. He did not have time to bring with him all those treasures and journals of travel that he collected for hundreds of years. That is why I had to create a new sword from scratch. But all he gained, power, memory, experience, remained with him. At this point, the built-in compass was a signal. Ed looked at him, not knowing that. From the darkness, he continued to monitor him. Sane stared into every movement of Ed, suspecting. Is he not a source of violations in a heroic party? The eye confirmed. Yes, it is he. Sane mentioned, according to the data, Ed should have been a simple carrier. So why did he now expel the weapon? Behavior did not meet expectations. The eye suggested that he kill him. Sane refused. First, it is necessary to watch. The eye asked why. Sane explained that although he could take the human form, it was always the same. And if it is exposed, it will spoil all the plans. The eye mocked. Can change anything but not a face? You are not bad. Sane has turned and reminded that he is a higher rank and demands respect. In the form of a lizard, Sane decided. First I will collect some more information. And he ordered the eye to stay still. Meanwhile, in the smithy of the blacksmith has shock. Ed has already finished? Just 6 days. Yes, Ed confirmed. Not counting food and sleep, he worked without stopping. Alexis asked, And you really think that it can impress me? No, Ed replied calmly. I kicked the perfect weapon. Gonzo laughed. It is enough to sway. Come on, show. But Ed stopped them. A special place for demonstration is needed. To do this compass, intrigued TIA asked why to use a tool that indicates magical creatures. Ed asked a minute to explain. When he began to open the weapon, Sane still watched. 3 objects, sword, glove, and silver stamp. So that's what Maril went to. Sane confessed to the eye. He felt more and more interest in these 3 pure Mytilon artifacts. The sacred sword is one thing, but the rest, something caused anxiety that he could not get rid of. He decided, you need to explore the situation more deeply. But at that moment, the unexpected happened. Ed smiled to him. Sane struck his eyes sharply. He asked the eye, I was exposed? Is this an accident? No, this view was accurate. Ed saw him exactly. Sane ordered the eye to remain and instantly changed the shape. The eye confirmed the order and turned into a shadow bat. Sane decided, a report for the King of Demons cannot wait. Ed had something deeply unnatural. Even the hero himself never felt the presence of Sane. And this newcomer, noticed? But what was most frightened is Ed's view. The view of a predator evaluating prey. It was absurd. Sane is not prey. He had to be a hunter. This situation was not subject to any logic, and suddenly, something struck in its form, a shadow bat. A loud explosion came. It was hit. Sane shouted. It was an ice arrow, the magic of spirits. But how? From such a distance, it's impossible. And then a calm, confident came out of the shadow. Ed. He greeted, called Sena a general, and added that he had long dreamed of meeting. Ed noted that he did not expect to see Sena so fast, but pleased that he was in order. Sane was numb. Ed even knew his name. Ed smiled boldly as if apologizing. Oh, is this a secret? But he added immediately, it is in vain to pretend. Sane understands it. Sane did not have time to answer how others came from the heroic party. Gonzo asked how things were. Ed happily reported, the blow was perfect. Sane was called. Ed praised Tia. It was incredible to hit such a distance. Ta laughed. Saida has been aware of the awareness. All this time they were following him. Gonzo suggested that he was a speaker of demons. Ed, without hesitation, confirmed. Yes, intelligence is a critical thing. Ta asked what next. Sane was in a panic. He began to assure that he was not an enemy, introduced himself to the King of Demons. In his head, lightning missed the plan. The hero is not nearby. He stated that he brought the message personally to the hero. Ta was slightly interested. Sane added, It is a proposal, a vision of a common future. But Ed only smiled wider. The hero will not. Alexis was precisely engaged in the evacuation of the civilian population, and this gave Ed full freedom of action. He voiced this future Sina and laughed, because he came not to build this future, and to destroy it, just here, just now. Ta looked at Ed silently, feeling the power of his determination. Sane smiled nervously. Kill. To destroy the future. It's too bold for a simple mortal, especially without a hero. Who are you, so to speak, so boldly? Sane changed the shape and challenged. Ed really thinks that he has the right to look at him with a bloodthirsty glitter in his eyes? Sane shouted the spell. The Horn of Death! Repeating killing the mantra. His body curls, grows. Now they are a giant, ugly monster. Tia is amazed up. Is this a real form of Sena? Ed realizes that Alexis has not chosen evacuation in vain. It was most important. Gonzo goes forward. He admits. Sane is not just a scout, but a serious threat. Care must be taken. Sane grows and stretches his claws. Gonzo will be the first to be crushed. The powerful explosion stirred the air. Gonzo instantly activates the magic barrier. Ed and Tia are jumping on a bright circle, part of a pre-prepared magic array. Sane roars. Hatred overwhelms him. He will not forgive them. For the disappearance, for the loss of force. Now that he showed his real face, it will not stop until the whole city is destroyed, to ashes. It launches a drain of attacks. Taya forms a barrier, a shield against the rain of destruction. She asks Gunzo if his barrier will withstand such a load. He nods confidently. He will cope, and again activates the shield. The blow is an explosion of electric shock of great power. All three hide behind the Gonzo barrier. Sane understands horror. It is not ordinary protection. It's a barrier that covers the whole city. This level of magic is impossible. In his intelligence, there was no hint at the enemy with such force. Tia, watching Ed and Gonzo holding the front line, whispered with delight. As expected, these are our Ed and Gonzo. At the height of Alexis is watching the fight. He is amazed. Did one just be weapon just change the course of the battle? His thoughts return to Ed. At the bottom, Gonzo squeezes a new weapon, fighting gloves. Ed confirms the settings and orders. Transfer Manu directly to your fists. Gonzo performs. His body begins to glow with raw energy. Opposite, Sane in his monstrous form screams in rage. How do people resist? And then Gonzo releases all the accumulated charge with one devastating blow. Sane's eyes were wide open from shock. The attack hit the target. His huge hand was instantly cut off with one blow. Ta Aknya, observing the scale of destruction. Gonzo, in delight, exclaimed that it was a real power, and praised Ed and a new weapon. He announced that his muscles finally reached his peak, enough to explode. But under the triumph of Gonzo, panic and confusion were raging in Sane. Even without a hero and a sacred sword, this party had a tremendous power. And the reason was one, Ed. He could not be ignored. Sane had to survive. He needs to report this to the King of Demons. There was a powerful explosion. Gonzo suggested in surprise that Sane had blown himself. But Ed immediately realized it was only a smoke curtain. He said Sane did not self-collapse but decided to escape. In the form of a giant worm, he crawled underground, certainly not catching it. But he was wrong. Tia's voice sounded, "Stone spell!" She discovered it and made him escape from the ground. Stone shackles were cutting a worm, like body. She calmly explained, "You will not fool Ed's eyes." Her sword, given by him, saw everything. The simple sword could be enhanced by the magic of the spirits, which allowed to cause natural effects during strokes. Gonzo asked in surprise, "Could Tia control such powerful magic?" She said modestly, "It was a regular stone spell." But thanks to Ed's sword, his power became completely different. While the dust settled, Ed slowly approached Sane, calm, as if waiting for this moment. Ed knew that Sane was thinking, and what would be next. Even in death or new life, a pity can remain. This moment is his atonement. Sane, confused, did not understand what the language is about. But Ed did not explain. It didn't matter if he would understand. But suddenly Sane creates a powerful whirlwind, trying to draw Ed into a destructive trap. But Ed was ready. He whispered, "Expand the wings from the distant future." The technique of a silver wing sword. Deployment 12 is activated. Then, 12 lightning blows in a row. The sword's essential wings take off. Ed moves gracefully and accurately. He directs the palm of his hand, ending the movement with the final section. The wall was silent. The stone kept everything. Ed looked at his palm. "That's all?" He whispered aloud, "It's all over?" Tia and Gunsa ran to him, asking if everything is fine. Ed nodded. The battle ended. Ed with a slight pride. Ed asked how his sword and technique. Both laughed, clasping him. Are you crazy? Ta came to the worm, suspiciously looking. He looked intact. Ed suggested looking more closely. Alexis, watching from above, explained that the impact is almost invisible. The autopsy place was so smooth that the creature could die without even noticing that it had been spread. Tia and Gunsa were amazed. Alexis added, this is only possible when both the sword and the sword are real masters. Ed just laughed. They say, it was a temporary option. Hurry. He has not reached the top yet, but Alexis did not laugh. He recalled that the title of the hero is not for beauty, and there is no blacksmith capable of leaving something like this sword. And Ed calls it hurry? Something does not converge here. Alexis addressed the direction. Who are you really, Ada? What are you hiding? Ed was frozen. Does Alexis suspect the truth? This turn was puzzled. Alexis spoke directly than he expected. Doubt began to bite him from the inside. He may have become too much. Alexis looked at Ed's weapons. At first glance, ordinary mithril staff, but something was wrong. Despite its simple look, it turned into a blade, an advocate through an unknown mechanism. Ed confirmed a guess. The mithril sword had a structure with wing-shaped projections on one side, which formed a thin, sharp blade on the other. With full activation, 12 wings occurred, which gave a blade of extraordinary sharpness. But further, the limit. The structure became too fragile and could crumble from the slightest blow. Inside, Ed confessed, the transformation was not magical. If he used the prohibited skill of the master blacksmith, it may have turned out more. But aloud, he only praised Alexis. Alexis again asked the question, but otherwise, what heights does Ed seek as a blacksmith? This question was embarrassed by Ed. He realized that he had accidentally issued something important. To take attention, Ed began to talk about his former dream, to create a sword that can cut everything. But the phrase remained unfinished. Alexis called it a typical desire, but immediately asked, is ED really capable of creating such a weapon? Ta asked what he thinks so. Alexis explained. Ed did not call the sword prototype or experiment. He said, a temporary decision, so he could create something much better. Then the question arises, why was he satisfied with the temporary option? Not enough time? Materials? Equipment? Ed thought and agreed. The creation of the perfect blade in their conditions was unrealistic. The greatest limit was raw materials. You will not buy such resources at the bazaar. They need to be obtained with reason. But in the soul, Ed admitted, most of the necessary ones came from other worlds. This was the main problem. Alexis accepted such an answer, and he translated the conversation to the destroyed wall of the city. It had to be restored urgently. Ed will be easy, but Ta intervened here. She asked Alexis to wait. She insisted that the Gonzo themselves would cope with the repair. At her head was a sweat. Alexis asked why she was looking at him. Tia did not answer. Only Gonzo called, and they ran. He grunted, but followed her. Ed suggested help, but Alexis stopped him. He had another offer, to talk alone in his room. Ed felt the tension covers it. The sword's hand was unconsciously squeezed. Meanwhile, a spell over the wall in the wall began. She turned to Lunarisha and said the hand of the earth. The earth was shaking. A giant hand fully made of stone and soil has risen from the soil. Passers-by froze in amazement. This is the elf from the heroic detachment. Ta noticed the crowd and apologized for the harm. She promised to repair everything. People began to applaud. Apologies were superfluous. The heroes defended their city. This was more than enough. Their voices were full of gratitude. One man exclaimed that spiritual magic was a miracle and promised to cheer for Tia. She modestly replied that it was their duty. The residents were inspired. If the characters continue in the same spirit, the demon, Lord himself will not stop them. Their determination gave hope. Ta replied with confidence that they would definitely bring peace into this world. With such support a demon, Lord is not an obstacle. The crowd exploded. Everyone shouted about the victory over the army of demons. One man with humor confirmed, I said. Gunzo appeared, carrying a huge boulder. He said self-confident that he did not even deserve his strength, and even the demon lord would not stand. People were suffocated by surprise. Putting a stone carefully, Gonzo made Tia smiling. He was indeed the embodiment of a reliable gross force. He stroked her on his head, giving confidence. All their achievements grew, as did the burden of expectations, but such weight is the natural part of the role of heroes. However, as long as Gonzo nearby, Tia did not have to pretend to be strong. She smiled again, understanding it. Gonzo added that with the advent of that boy, Ed, their team became even stronger. TIA should not worry together, they will defeat the demon. She thanked him, and Gonzo answered a wide, sincere smile. And suddenly he remembered. Where is Ed and Alexis? Taya seems to have already guessed what to expect from them. Meanwhile, in the courtesy of Alexis, the atmosphere became more serious. He offered Ed black tea. Ed was discussed confusedly. The situation seemed worrying. Alexis invited him personally, behaved politely, even suspiciously gently. This was alarming. The hero confessed that tea was brewed from the remains of the ingredients he could not taste. Ed waved, but inside the alarm only intensified. From this attitude, a fan, as if he was preparing to expel him again, he restrained these thoughts and asked directly why he was called. All this was too reminiscent of the times when it was kicked out. Alexis answered honestly. He wanted to show something. He took the holy weapon and stretched it. He was surprised, because for the first time he received permission to touch it. Earlier, Alexis' fruit forbade others to do it. Ed was carefully clarified. Is it really possible? Yes, even before he finished the phrase, he noticed something strange in the sword. Alexis wondered what he thinks. Ed recognized. The blade is truly legendary, worthy of its reputation. But he did not have time. Alexis interrupted him. If the sword is so impressive, does he deserve the title of holy weapon? Ed thought nervously. Technically, yes, but in the soul, no. Even with the skill of master blacksmith, he can only reproduce the same. But it will still not be a holy weapon. Alexis nodded. He understood it himself, and discovered the truth. These are not holy weapons. It is only the best blade created by human hands. Only fake. Ed was stunned. If you use all the forces of the master, the result can be equal, but not real. He asked, why? And where then the real holy weapon? Alexis confessed he does not know. Global searches began, dozens of detachments were sent, in vain. No hook. The truth became clear. This sword is just a copy. Temporary replacement created to support the hope of the emergence of a real blade. Because if the demon is the truth, it will first find real weapons, and then the chance of humanity will go out. Alexis has supported this lie for years, but the blade is already on the verge. He was sure that no one was able to create something like that. To this day, he looked at Ed and asked directly, will he be able to create a sword even more powerful than this one? Ed admitted, using all the experience and skill of the exile, perhaps. Yes, but even then, it will be a copy, not a real holy weapon. But Alexis put all his faith on him. Alexis dropped his knees in front of him. The gesture stunned Ed. The hero asked to give him an instrument worthy of this title. He promised to provide everything you need. Materials, tools, anything. He asked not for himself, but for the mission of the hero. Ed tried to stop him, saying that the hero should not bow to someone like him. But Alexis replied that he would bow as much as he would need. It has the burden of the fate of all humanity. His defeat is the defeat of the world. With his fists and a sloping head, he stood firmly. Ed didn't understand how he could go so far. This path was imposed on him. Alexis was a victim, a symbol on which hopes were placed, and yet he chose to continue the struggle. He quietly acknowledged he was different, special. He could achieve everything, just wanting. It was its essence, to be the embodiment of hope, a symbol of the future. And now he asked Ed to give him a chance to continue to bear this hope. Be a hero. Ed then understood everything. Alexis' pride, his nobility, not through arrogance but through responsibility. He was not chosen by the gods because he was elected. They had to choose him because he was already a hero. Ed admitted that he had been mistaken in it, and he said, maybe his work is not yet worthy of a real hero, but he also wants to find a real holy weapon. He got a compass of Akashi. Alexis was surprised. Isn't it a device for detecting demons? Ed apologized for lies. Yes, he has secrets. If the truth about the compass became known, it would be expelled again. But after Alexis's determination, he has no right to remain silent. Ed asked, Alexis is looking for a direction to holy weapons, isn't it? If so, his services are very available. Price: victory over Demon Lord and recovery of peace. Alexis agreed without hesitation. Alexis accepted the conditions and solemnly promised to pay the price. He asked Ed to lead him to where holy weapons await. And from that moment the hero finally realized, Ed is not just a blacksmith. Alexis called him by name, without titles, After all, the one to whom he bowed could not just be an assistant. Like Gonzo with that, Ed was now a real companion, a full member of the heroic team. Alexis has officially admitted it. Ed was confused but answered with a slope. He accepted a new role and first turned to him by name, Alexis. And so Ed finally became an equal participant in the heroes' party. Meanwhile, people were looking at the restored wall. It was not only fully rebuilt, but also seemed stronger than before. Everyone was amazed. That did it in one day. She was thanked and invited to stay, though she already knew where to go on. As a sign of gratitude, residents of the city set a modest statue in her honor, the joint work of the entire community. Ed and Gonzo barely restrained laughter, looking at the monument. People have moved to say that they would not forget the feat of those, even if they did not see him with their own eyes. Alexis supported it, and Tai asked in surprise, why only such glory? Alexis jokingly suggested adding illumination with rainbow lights. The master sculptor was delighted. Tai was discouraged and asked to stop. It was too much. Then Alexis passed Ed's initiative, urging him to lead. He confidently accepted responsibility. And so they went in search of a real holy weapon. Akashi's compass pointed the direction, but not the distance. The road was unknown and dangerous. They only had to go forward without stopping, through the mountains, forests, swamps. One day the compass brought into the cave, which was a deaf angle. But it was also part of the path. For Ed, such a trip was a dream. She allowed him to see the lands he had once lost. 3 months have passed, and they finally reached the foggy forest outside the northern mountains. Gonzo suspected that they had already been here, but Ed was convinced that the direction is true. The bridge is thick, not even exposed to the magic of the spirits. Ed asked the source. It turned out, the whole forest was closed by illusory magic. Any attempt to dispel her provoked a new illusion, but the fog itself reacted to something, or to someone. Perhaps the case was in the presence of Alexis. This place responded to him. Everyone looked at the hero. He agreed. It seems that they really came where it was necessary. Gonzo urged to be careful, remembering the previous trap with that. She reminded that the cave was very plausible. She turned to Ed for support. He also felt, this time they were really on the spot. They opened a majestic scene, the giant statues of knights. And in the center, holy weapons. Her presence was amazed. Ed looked at Alexis. He said the prophecy. In the depths of a pure source, the hero's power rests. And now everything has come to place. Only the hero, having passed this path, could find a sword. That is why no one has found it yet. Tai from Gonzo looked at Alexis. They pushed him. The moment came. Ed smiled, watching the event. Alexis was aware of the importance of the moment. He thanked Ed. Without him, it would never have happened. Ed reminded you of the promise. Do not make the sword wait. Alexis was already going to take it, but suddenly stopped. And what? How will Ed try? If the sword is only a true hero, and Ed will pull it out, maybe he is a hero? Ed thought. The logic was iron. Logic was, because the chance is unique, Ed agreed to try. Gonzo immediately stated that he wanted to. Tai joined enthusiastically. Ed approached the sword, put his hand on his hand. For a moment he even thought of the carrier box to simply move the platform, but immediately rejected the thought. It would be dishonest. He pulled, but the sword did not even move. Then Gonzo came forward. He strained every muscle, clenched his arms and pulled his best. Soapy, roared, completely posed, but he did not manage to move his sword. Gonzo sighed, went away. Now the cue was after that. She rushed to the sword joyfully, but as soon as she took up, she realized, in vain. Alexis only sighed, expected. Thatchin was offended and called it a pest. Only he stayed. Alexis slowly approached the sword and touched the tip with his finger. Nothing happened. Everyone kept breathing. Gonzo noticed that Alexis is worried. And it is clear. Tai assured that everything would be fine. At heart, Alexis believed. He will be able to. And the sword began to move. Ed shouted in surprise. Tai cheered, shouted, "You do it!" Gonzo joined, calling not to stop. Alexis answered irritatedly. It should have been a legendary moment, not a circus. But suddenly the voice came. Who died to touch the sacred sword? This question changed everything. The world around Alexis has disappeared. He was in a luxurious hall similar to the royal castle. Stunned, looked around. The voice called him by name. Women's laughter, soft in acquaintance, said he would once love this name. She was convinced that the whole planet would know Alexis, After all, he is her most expensive child. In vision, Alexis saw his mother. And in reality, 3 comrades watched as Alexis stands without moving. Ed asked what was with him. Tia was worried and approached. But suddenly a huge golem fist thundered in front of her. Gonzo shouted, asking if Ed is whole. A few more golets appeared nearby. Is it a trap? Ed didn't know. Everyone rushed to flee. He sounded Alexis, trying to get him out of trance. Tai quickly identified, this is strong magic. His consciousness was in a different reality. These golets are the keeper of the test. They will not allow anyone to break the hero's ritual. In the memoirs of Alexis, childhood, he asked his mother to read another story. She laughed. He loved the legends about the heroes. The baby promised that he would also become a hero. Then, the day when his mother died. Since then, Alexis has worked without rest, daily, to justify her faith. To become a hero, she saw him, to be special. But then he first met Man, and for the first time realized he was not special. He is only an ordinary guy. In reality, Gonzo hit the golem, but he withstood. This enemy was surprisingly strong. That understanding, physical strength will not help here. It is necessary to impress the magic that enlivens it. This task lay on Ed. They will cover Alexis with Gonzo. Tai attacked the golem, announcing that it would not allow him to do what he pleased. The battle lasted.
Gonzo brings to Alexis, wake up.
And in his mind, a fight with the same man, the one who once showed him his own weakness. But Alexis did not give up. It may have been a stubborn desire to prove to her mother that she was not mistaken. And he went on. And so the day has come when the world heard. A new hero was chosen, given by divine will. People exclaimed his name, Alexis. And then, for the first time after all years of struggle, he asked himself, did I really wanted that? He remembered how he thanked those for her power and asked to join him. She agreed to support the title. Then she introduced herself again, Lunarisha. But not everyone could keep up with him. He once said that her way to evade Ed was too complicated. She replied that she could only keep him away. Because if he goes with them, she will no longer be able to protect him. She understood that Ed would hamper her, but he should live and see the world without war. Alexis said she did the right thing. Otherwise, Ed would only expect a senseless death. But what did Ed see? The same has never been. The voice answered is not an illusion, but a memory of a possible future, long lost. These were real, though deeply buried memories. Alexis lost a lot. He saw the one, Gonzo. Were they fighting now? The voice explained. Although the people loved him, the promises of the hero remained unfulfilled. There is nothing left at the end. Alexis was in vain tried to pull the sword. The voice asked, is he worthy of being called a hero? Alexis himself began to doubt. Did he really believe that this title deserves? The hero must give everything for the sake of the world, and he was too stubborn. Instead of sacrifice, only stubbornness that leads to defeat. And in the end, the collapse of the illusion of the hero and the death of mankind. Alexis recognized the truth. He understood. Ed and that were fighting. A voice came again in the mind. Are you really a hero? Alexis answered uncertainly. He does not know. The very fact that he is called does not mean that he is. He may just play a role that others believed in. In fact, he has never been a real hero. Ed shouted. He could not believe in these words, but Alexis continued. Who has the right to decide who was born big and who became it through effort? He is the one that he was made by those who believed in him. And he will pave his way, even if he has to break this truth, because he is a hero. The space exploded with a dazzling glow. A powerful wave of energy rolled around. 3 friends, Ed, Tia, and Gonzo, were delighted to see Alexis pulls a sacred sword. He glowed like a fragment of the moon that combines beauty and deadly power. But the real power was not only in the sword, it was a unity with his companions who pushed forward. He believed with them, they would defeat the owner of the demons. And it was at this moment that Alexis truly became a hero. In his eyes, a moon shadow was reflected. On the night before the decisive battle, Gonzo took the night guard. He told Alexis to go to bed. He asked about Tu and Cyan. Gonzo replied that they had already fallen asleep. The fatigue took its. Alexis thanked him seriously for his support. Gonzo, surprised by this tone, asked if Alexis was afraid not to survive tomorrow. He denied. He just wanted to be ready. And he said, Gonzo has to live for himself. Gonzo replied that he had long prepared for it. Alexis explained, not everyone can be prepared as he is. Gonzo agreed. It is impossible to demand the same determination of all. But he promised, when the moment comes, he will cover the hero with everything he has. Alexis asked, if everything goes wrong, just forgive his selfishness and smile. In the present battle, Alexis gave a sign of Gonzo. He understood and confidently activated the aura shite. His fists lit up and he called Ida. Did he find the goal? Ed replied that not yet. Enemies. Then Alexis ordered to leave. He will destroy the target, and he activated his secret equipment. Full moon, a running, is a technique that uses all the power of the lunar sword. A bright explosion swept the battlefield. Ed moved forward, through smoke and fire. It was an attack of a real hero. He looked at the compass, recorded the target, and gave the signal. She replied, "Ready." Ed indicated that the enemy hit at the top of the tallest tree. At this point, Alexis released a new technique. The Ray of Storms filled with the power of the true sacred sword. While the fighting continued, Ed remembered. It is a forest between the human and demonic world. Legends, forbidden, full monsters. 10 years later, he had already crossed him with that, using forbidden skills. But then it was an exception. Otherwise, without the power of the hero, not to survive. Later, the group made a short stop. One of them said, "If you have already passed so much, everything will be fine." Another agreed. Tai sighed. They have been eating only canned food for a long time. She missed Ed's homemade food. He smiled when they returned to the city. He will prepare something really delicious. Gonzo joined the conversation. Delicious food for him is already motivation. But here in the forest, to prepare something is a real challenge. Tai said she was waiting. Then she turned to Alexis with anxiety. "Is everything okay after such powerful equipment?" Alexis replied that everything was well with him, although he recognized. It is still difficult to manage the technique. But over time he will learn. He is a hero. Ed mentally agreed. This is exactly what he had to expect from him. That she thought. She once believed that he would take years to prepare for the battle with the demonic world. But only 6 months have passed since they met Ed. And it felt as if eternity had passed. Gonzo also agreed with that. Ed quietly noticed. 6 months. It was this duration of stay in the party that was a condition for returning to the white world. He just performed it. The next step is to be expelled. Gonzo said that sometimes one day on the road means more than a decade alone. Tia nodded and Ed thought, Alexis with his sword became the strongest in this world. Undoubtedly, he is now a real hero, both in force and in spirit. And together with Gonzo, they formed the strongest heroic party. But what is with him, Ed? Despite the joint battles, its goal remains separate. Their path is not him. He will leave, and they will stay. Although sometimes there was a desire to stay, thoughts about the house were not released. However, even after all experienced, his soul sought a return. The finish line remained a little. Tai and Gonzo enthusiastically discussed the victory over the demon. Ed asked what everyone was planning to do after the battle. Gonzo thought. Ed felt that everyone should have a dream after. He thought inside. How to gently bring everything to exile. How to make them offer it. Tai assumed that Alexis would become a king. Ed joked from this, imagining a funny scene. Alexis denied, and everyone laughed. Then Alexis returned to Gonzo and reminded him of his promise, to return to the Eastern Kingdom for a while. Gonzo confirmed, cannot disappear without report. But he promised to return. Alexis nodded without worrying. Gonzo stuck it, not shy. Then he asked the plans. Tai said dreamily, she wants to travel the renovated world, see unknown, find a place that can be called home, and where they will all get together again. For her, it sounded like a real dream. Alexis smiled. Such words could only say that. Then he asked Ed, what does he want? Ed replied, return to his native village, bring souvenirs. A small but good place. Tai was upset and said that she also wanted to visit there. Ed gave a blurred answer. Tai came out, they say, you are stingy. Required at least some way of communication. If it disappears without a word, will not forgive. Gonzo agreed. Even if the party breaks down, their connection is real. Do not erase it. They confirmed it aloud. Alexis glanced at Ed. Why is it so sentimental? He suspected. Maybe Ed drunk from water? Because they did nothing yet. On the contrary, he insisted. Alexis should defeat the demon, at any cost. It was here that Alexis could turn the dream of a peaceful life into a reality. And he assured, the promises are followed. Ed reminded her. And Alexis? I agreed. He really promised it, and the owner of the demons will win. And Ed mentally whispered, this is only the first of the 100 farewells that he will have to say. Again, he will not be in the finale, so now, to leaving the full so that there is no regrets. The party slept. And Ed sat, immersed in thoughts, trying not to lose the last threads of communication. Gonzo came out of the tent. He said he was in custody and Ed should rest. Ed asked the one. Gonzo replied that she was sleeping. Then he asked if something happened. And then Ed, quietly, seriously asked him. Gonzo, feeling the importance of the moment, called it small. Ed mentally swore, no regrets. Everything is tied. It will be destroyed. This is his last duty, before exile. They ran together later. Tai pointed forward. She saw him. The land of the demonic world. Alexis confirmed. Yes, it is time to clear the way. He activated his full moon cutter technique, directing the power of a sword full of moonlight. The explosion shook everything around. The party froze in the passion. Ed barely smiled. That's how it ends, he thought. He knew at heart, that's how everything went wrong. That is why the first heroic party was completely killed. Before them stood the owner of the demons. His eyes were burning. He has been waiting for this meeting for a long time, and with an unconcealed pleasure he welcomed the hero and his companions. The demon laughed. This moment was a holiday for him. He was looking forward to meeting those who dared to go so far. He acknowledged that only a real hero, like Alexis, could get here. But will he have the strength to resist the army in such an exhausted state? Ed intervened here, giving indifference and boldness. But the atmosphere changed instantly when the demon focused on it. The owner mentioned unusual reports from the front. High-ranking officer Sion was defeated, but not a hero, and the black-eyed luggage carrier. The demon pointed directly to Ed. The flying eye confirmed he was the culprit. This fact brought chaos into the whole demonic strategy. Ed violated the course of the war, and although it was first the thought of leaving him and letting go of others, the demon broke out laughing. Never again. Even the weakest enemy must be destroyed immediately, without regret. He announced, now he will erase the heroes from the face of the world using all the power of the demonic army. Alexis perceived it as a typical challenge. Defeat the army, and go on. For him, it was only an extra pathetic blah blah, typical of demons. But the demon became angry because of such neglect, and he gave an order. All troops in the attack. The flow of demons whispered on the heroes. They raced with a terrible intention to kill. Alexis did not shudder. This horde will only be enough to warm up, Ed calmly confirmed. We will handle. But that warned Alexis. Do not tighten yourself. The owner is still ahead. Gonzo supported. We need to protect the strength. They will cover the first wave. With a scream, Gonzo rushed into the attack. His power crashed the demons. That one began its spell, drawing force from the ground. Her magic had the shape of a lunar sickle, which mulled stones. It was lunarisha. The spell took the form, the melody of the earth. Stone thorns grew out of the ground, sowing demons through. The owner of the demons finally revealed a true strategy. It was a war for exhaustion. The main thing is not to win at once, but to gradually break the characters before the final battle. He ordered his troops to go to the end. One demon addressed Garaha's commander. The attacks were in vain. The protection of the heroes, especially the elves, was too strong. Panic was spreading. Where do they have so much magical power? Why is she not exhausted? The Elfian had a spell one by one, as if her strength was boundless. This has not been invested in any intelligence report. Then Garahas called Jorgander. The earth shuddered. Something big was approaching. The cracks crawled through the earth, splitting it into pieces. Everything fell under their feet. The earth under his feet betrayed. The whole party flew down into the abyss. The topsoil collapsed, forming a huge abyss. Ed immediately realized it was a trap. He clenched his teeth. You need to find a way to get an urgent way. A voice came in chaos. The hero was found. From the darkness, a demon. A giant serpent that glittered with scales like steel. Tai screamed, ordering everyone to stay. She began to speak a spell under the name of Lunarisha. A giant stone fist emerged from the ground. Ed looked at her. Tai nodded. Time to act. Under her control, her hand grabbed everyone from the monster's mouth, which was about to swallow them. But the monster exhaled the flames. Tai waved her hand. A stone blow beat the attack. The demon laughed, calling them pathetic, promising to devour the protective barrier itself. Gonzo fastened his eyebrows. It's not just a gigantic monster. He also flew, but it was still fitting in the boundary of the unexpected. Alexis appeared over him, commenting that a flying and elongating snake was an interesting combination. Ed agreed. Convenient, hey? Alexis picked up. Even our thoughts are synchronous. Ed added that it is worth enjoying the flight while there is a chance, and he hit the sword directly into the trunk of the monster. The giant snake began to break out, shaking the sky. Alexis shouted the teams, "To the left, now up!" Ed replied that it was impossible, they lost control. The fall was inevitable. Ed asked to prepare a winding for soft planting. She had time. The monster crashed into the ground and the characters flew into the air and fell nearby. Ed checked the one. "Everything is fine?" She smiled. "Almost did not have time." Ed praised it and gave it an elixir. She used too much mana. Their path is still long. Tai thanked. Gonzo stuck loudly. "Such blows do not harm the muscles," Alexis said. They finally got. However, the route came out alternative. He pointed out, "Here it is the heart of the real demonic world." Tai warned, "The entrance on this side is dangerous." Gonzo added, "The army remained behind. If not cleaned, they can find themselves between two lights, but to attack directly is too risky." Then Alexis stopped and turned to his comrades. He thanked them for the path traveled together. But ahead is the death zone. He did not speak as a leader, but as a friend. The return may not be. They are not chosen as he is. They still have a choice. So if someone wants to retreat, he will not condemn. But who will stay with him until the end? Ed understood everything. It was not a request for allegiance. It was a proud declaration of determination. Now it is clear why Alexis was so tried to save that earlier. He just could not express his emotions. Tai answered immediately. "A stupid question. Of course we go together." Gonzo added that even his muscles will not stop, even if the hero stops. Ed laughed, lightly. "It is because Alexis was able to make such a choice. Everything will be fine." But suddenly he said silently, I will not go with you." The party froze. These were not the usual words of Ed, even the motionless that could not hide anxiety. There was no drop of humor in his voice. He stood in heaven, his face was serious. His tone was calm but heavy. It's the end of his path. Although he promised to remain to the end, he had a long time since he boiled. Should he really be beating nearby? After all, if the owner of the demons remains in defeat, he may lose the only chance to return home. The hero and lord are two opposites. Their existence is mutually exclusive. If Alexis loses the title of hero, the conditions of expulsion from the party will disappear, and then there will be no gate. Playing with capricious laws of gods is a risk that can destroy everything, and now he could not make a decision. And so, at a moment, when everyone dreamed of victory, Ed chose an outburst again, a point of non-return, where the paths will disperse forever. But then Alexis took a step forward, silently understanding everything. He acknowledged that Ed was able to carry such a burden, and is the reason why he went such a long way. For Alexis, the hero chosen, it was obvious. After all, for the one who stands over ordinary people, death is a constant shadow, and that is why Ed's vulnerability was particularly noticeable. Tai wanted to reassure them, but the truth was too explicit. Ed's desire to go home, as he confessed, was his leading dawn. And if the heart still seeks home, the departure is the only right solution. At that moment, Alexis assured, Ed has nothing to be afraid. It is thanks to him that he now has a true holy sword, capable of penetrating any defense. Without objections, Ed accepted fate. He was preparing to leave the battlefield, to telephone before the battle worse, leaving a common road forever. Before disappearing, that turned to Gonzo. Will he be able to withstand this loss? In memory, the moment from the night they sat by the fire came out. Then Ed jokingly asked why Gonzo was suddenly so serious. In fact, it was hidden anxiety. But then he still felt relief. Now it became clear, with Alexis, the strongest hero of this world, with one capable of smashing any enemy, and from Gonzo an indomitable defender, their party was invincible. Their strength has already caused regret for the owner of the demons, because his fate was decided. Gonzo said clearly, without Ed they would not go half the way. Everyone understood this. Ed was the foundation on which their entire journey was held. In the discussion, the idea made, after the breakthrough of the demonic world, the enemy will not stop. He will be ambushed. The chaotic battle has already hinted at how powerful the attacks can be. Little forces could still be handled. But if a real army appears, it is a different scale. But Gonzo remained confident. He believed that the current battles were perhaps a chance to weaken the enemy before the last blow. In this charged moment, Ed finally decided to leave. It was not a desperate escape, but a personal, important return home. And although their fates diverged, the relationship between them will remain. Ed knew. Everything was unusual from the beginning. They fought continuously, had neither sleep nor rest. The demonic world was exhausted. Yes, there were victories, but fatigue has already taken its. In everyone, it became noticeable. They were exhausted. How can you defeat the owner of demons if they become weaker every step? He looked at Gonzo. He turned to him not only as a friend, but as an unbreakable team of the team. The main thing is to deliver Alexis to the final combat. It was the goal of Gonzo. His muscles existed for that.
Ed once said, when the time comes, the decision should be logical, not emotional.
If you need, as Gonzo always covered everyone from the rear. Now Ed asked to cover him. Even now in the present, this thought did not leave him. Ed believed in Gonzo. He turned to him and reported that everything you need was already packed in a backpack. It is heavy, but for Gonzo is a trifle. He only nodded. One look, and everything became clear. The explanations were superfluous. Gonzo's eyes shone with understanding. The last silent confirmation, and everything was resolved. Gonzo threw a backpack on his shoulders. Alexis returned to that. It's time to go. Tai stopped. Something wrong. They were not moving to the other way. The army of demons was in a different direction. Alexis finally understood. He turned his eyes wide. Ed was already rushing away directly towards the army of demons. Alexis wanted to run after him, but Gonzo stopped him, holding it firmly. Alexis escaped forward, demanding that he be released. But Gonzo stood inconvenient. The hero's way, not there. That, worried, asked what was happening. Alexis, angry and betrayed, indignant, they say, do not depreciate me. There was no logic for him that would justify his friend. It was unacceptable. At the same moment, Tai took a step trying to change something. But a magical circle broke out around. Alexis demanded explanations. And that, why Gonzo activated the protective barrier. The hero shouted, "Does Ed think that I will take this approach?" Ed's voice came from below. They did not understand so much. After all, the demon said he would release the whole army to destroy them right here. And that meant, if Ed won all these forces, only the owner of the demons will remain. And that type did not lie. Everything they saw so far has been confirmed. And finally, they wanted Ed. Isn't it logical that he had to meet them? Gonzo sighed quietly. Being popular is difficult. Then he looked at Alexis and turned to him directly. You are a hero. Do you understand what determination has just shown by Ed? Everyone, even Ed, believed that Alexis would win the ruler. So, what should the hero do right now? Alexis mentioned the moments when he could prove himself. Ida mentioned the words, I do not want all our efforts to be in vain. Now the price of the victim has become apparent. He must complete this war. Ed's words were heard in his head, harsh but fair. Are you a hero really, if you value your own more than a duty? Alexis was silent, absorbed by reflections. It was a promise, wasn't it? He swept at any cost to overcome the ruler. This is his mission, his role. And now it's time to draw the last limit. If Ed chooses to leave, is it not an expulsion from a heroic party? That shouted, denying it with tears in her voice. She refused to believe it. Begging for Gonzo stops him, but he just lifted her in his arms. Tai was struggling, trying to escape, and again turned to Alexis with the last question. And the hero finally answered, calmly, with pain. He threw a sacred sword towards Ed. And this act formally expelled him from the hero's party. But he added, you have to return, and return this sword personally, because we are friends. Ed has foreseen everything and accepted it. The conditions of his return were fulfilled. He handed over the party to the protection of Gonzo. It remained 10 minutes before returning. Departed, Ed felt the heavy burden of guilt. It all began as a journey to bring back that smile. And now he made her cry again. I don't understand so much, he thought. That sobbing, Gonzo begged to let her go. She felt, if everything lasts, Ed would die. Her eyes expanded. This, repeated again. Someone sacrifices themselves again to protect her, for the second time. She will remain the only one who survives. And this feeling in the chest, what is it? She didn't know. But it burned and hurt. Her cry became loud, desperate. Gonzo called her to stop. If she continues, he will simply depreciate Ed's decision. Tai replied that she understands. But she insisted. Even Gonzo does not want it. Then Gonzo confessed. Ed asked him to restrain everyone. He personally entrusted him with this task. But even in Gonzo's heart, something shuddered. A strange feeling. As if he had ever heard the same words. The image was too realistic, almost like a dream. The dream in which Alexis was. Ed whispered in confusion. It seemed as if he had entrusted him. But what exactly? He smiled gently. For Ed, it was just a dream. Gonzo clenched his fists, holding back anger. What is his friend if he could not answer? Ta was silent, fossilizing in silence. Meanwhile, Ed was standing in front of the Demon Lord army. He apologized for late. Now the characters could go on. Alexis will win. One demon laughed. He would quickly deal with Ed and then catch up with the rest. This path belongs to demons. But Ed coldly interrupted him. Do you really think that you have the future? He ordered them to prepare. The last battle began here and now. Ed activated the bloodstream, and with that he announced, the Demon Lord's army came to an end. The leader of the demons doubted. Could this one man destroy them all? But Aura Ed has changed sharply. It was no longer a simple mortal. It was a threat. Ta remembered that there were special expressions on Ed's face, which she could never forget. It was this view that he had at their first meeting, and again, when he expelled them their weapons, as if he were looking through the window where the children were playing. It was the view of someone who never belonged to this world. He has always been somewhere away. Ta sought to change it with all her heart. Even at the cost of her life, she wanted to prove, he belongs to here. But what, as the place where Ed wanted, was far beyond its understanding. And suddenly the demon appeared. The demon announced, this is the last barrier. He, Gashur, stands here to destroy the hero with his own hands. But Ta knew, if it were a real end, Ed would not choose to escape. Alexis warned that it would be difficult to win in their condition. Ta asked Gonzo to let her go. Although he hesitated, she repeated, everything is fine. Gashur smiled, blaming the hero of cowardice. He threw his friend. But Ta started a spell. She called the Ether's Faith, 4 seasons and the wind over the fading light. Gashur stopped for a moment. Ta spoke the name Lunarisha, demanding her will. She caused a storm, a call of a storm. The silver spirit was illuminated, and the huge tornado escaped outside, destroying everything in the way. In Tia's thoughts, she made a decision, to go on, step by step, to the world that Ed has always seen. She shouted Alexis. Time came. They moved to the finals, and in her heart she was heard. Ada, is that enough? Meanwhile, Ed himself stood against the entire army of demons. One of them shouted. The barrier was broken, but it was too late. Ed cut enemies on both sides without regret. One demon looked with horror. Grushcher is dead. But who is this man? He was one, and he was not a hero. How could the luggage carrier have such power? On the front of ED, he activated the bloodstream again. His strength has increased 100 times. The energy boiled in the veins, the blood evaporated. But the price was death in 10 minutes. The demon decided to break the rhythm of Ed. He imposed the disappearance of gravity. Ed's leg broke away from the ground. In his eyes there was a confusion. His body began to rise. The spell was not aimed at it. It changed the terrain itself. Ed realized that it would be a serious problem. The demon thought that he was already in his hands. He began his final reception, Destruction Dawn, and he released a terrible explosion to where Ed had just stood. He was convinced of the victory. The demon decided that Ed had died, sustainable but worthless, so he remembers it. But the other demon urged him to retreat and focus on the hero. The army had to rebuild under the command of Jaganon. Higanon had to restrain the enemy, but despised this order. His defeat was forced to act with pride. Giganon decided to destroy the hero himself. Comrade was indignant. The order of the demon Lord was clear the hero above all. But before he agreed, his body flew into pieces. The neck is the first to fall. Ed stood alive in front of them. Where they saw his death, now stood the sentence himself. All the demons shuddered. The body was scattered into powder. None of the explanations made it meaningless. The demon imposed a gravitational press to crush it. But Ed destroyed the spell with magical absorption. His body shone armor from the magic invulnerability. Ed looked at the enemy. Lack of strength, intuition, experience. Without hesitation, he activated the Trekalinka temperature. The blade shone even more. He realized that time in this world is coming to an end. 100 years the same is the same. Different faces, but always alien. Ed caused an orbital reflector, magic that echoed its essence. She embodied his chosen right to be free. His path was determined not only by his essence. He forged his own future. The demon in despair shouted for help. He realized that this man is the worst enemy. One invincible, Ed went forward. Again, he activated the Trekalinka temperation, finally. There is no place for pity in his heart. No fragile of evil, no shadow of the tragedy. Only he, and rainbow rain over the battlefield. Ed stood among the dead demons. The sky was crying over a silent victory. Demons looked with horror. Who is he, this Ed, that he destroyed everything on his own? In response, Ed activated regeneration. like a healer without bandages, without a license. His torn hands slowly recovered. Muscle, skin. When the body was healed, it exhaled quietly. The end was close. The leader of the demon gathered the remains of troops. Death was already standing nearby, but he would try again. Kill Ida immediately. He rushed forward, but Ed, easily evading, turned his left hand into a blade and killed the enemy with a blow to the skull. Another demon ran from the flank, but Ed grabbed the horn-killed and used it as a dubin, breaking the second. In a moment, he is already with a new sword. One blow and the enemy fell. Finally, Ed reached for a sacred sword. In his hands, there is a holy tool. He turned to the last enemy, General. He recognized his power. Among all, ED was the most dangerous. The general knew that Ed would not return to his own. If he dies, then with him, the end will be here. Undoubtedly, the general activated the final form, a giant eye that was in the air, pulsing energy. The spell is a gravitational collapse, a force that erases everything. But Ed was not thinking about the fight. His thoughts were with those he defended. The general considered Ed the strongest, but it was a mistake. The real shield was Gonzo, the first in the battle, the last to fall. His body, spirit, and strength were superior to everyone. No one could match. Alexis, fearless and indomitable, walked forward to defeat the demon. And that, her gentle smile warmed her souls even at the darkest moments. They are a real power. Integral. Real. Ed was different. Shadow among the heroes, a stranger who never belonged, and that is why he could give everything. Burn the last spark of yourself, even if he disappeared here, he knew they would win. At that moment, Ed inserted a blade from General. He laughing stated that he achieved the goal. Such force did not pass without casualties. Ed will burn, and he will never see his comrades. Single and dead, the strongest failure. The general threw in the last derision. Ed didn't answer, only cut the enemy in half. The monster was destroyed. His remains lay where they fell. Ed stood above them. And suddenly he began to laugh, loudly, haunted. His body trembled from overload. Even with regeneration, the wounds were terrible, but all end. This meant that he had time. Without sweat on the forehead, and with hell behind his shoulders, he cleared the way. Put a hand on the heart. He asked him to withstand a little. He did everything he could. Next is their path. He believed. Alexis would destroy the Lord. And then, what will happen to everyone? What will happen after? A quiet smile lay on his mouth. That destroyed world no longer exists. Old Alexis. They will have a new life. And that, she will no longer have to hide. Everyone will live in that world, the world that Ed recognized. Slightly changed but familiar, fatum or accident is indifferent. Here and now he understood. This is his last stop. Thoughts returned to that, their last moments before the second circle. Now he realized that it was the finale of the path. Did he fulfill his promise? Did it bring it to the end? Silence is the most valuable answer. He did everything he could, and that was enough. Although, maybe that and the rest will look for him. Before returning, seconds were left. It would be sad if no trace remained. So he left the sword. Simple action, but sufficient. They will understand. He died here. The body weighed. It reached the limit, but it was good. Everything is complete. In the last breath, the wishes of Alexis's success, he gave everything to him and Gonzo. And those, his role is complete. The transition began and ended. The eyes opened. Before him is a white colorless plain, as usual. His armor is shabby. The body is exhausted. The sword is the same, worthless as at the beginning. Everything, as it was, and that's good. If something had changed, he could not withstand the consequences of exile. Laughed quietly, even the door is the same. Meanwhile, there are his friends, strong as ever, they go to victory. It is only a pity. There are no mind buns here. Maybe next time. After all, it is still ahead. Ed took a step forward. As always, the ore shone, greeting his return. This glow was unchanged, stable, soothing. He was almost sure that this time he would not get anything. But it seems that the second circle also belonged to the reward. Perhaps a new skill or strengthening of the old one. He touched the crystal ball, and nothing happened. Instead, a book fell on his head. He groaned, barely holding back irritation. Again, the same as always. Why always on your head? But this time something was different. The book was not white. Its name is the Magazine of the Heroic Result. Was it a reward for the second circle? He unfolded her. Inside, autobiography. But not him. Alexis. From birth. Even the story of diapers was outlined with absurd accuracy. His growth, habits, everything, up to youthful fools. Ed did not want to, but he was touched. All this was too familiar. The old man who was constantly angry. Then that. Ida's fingers were delayed on these pages. And here, he himself. Reading about yourself from a foreign point of view is a strange feeling, but interesting. The world he knew was now revealed from a different angle. It fascinated. But suddenly he realized, he is no longer in this story, only a third-party observer. If so, who was he really? And then, a page that stopped your breath. The fourth member of the detachment. Without him, the heroes would not reach the Lord Demons. He was not a casual traveler. He was the cause of everything. In the book, he is called a true hero. Ed just smiled and shook his head. It was too loudly said. But relief still rolled. Alexis really won. He closed his eyes, feeling it with all being. He noticed a new shelf and put a book there. She went perfectly in place, as if the shelf was created for her. Empty. But he wanted to gather more. I wanted to find out what happened to others. But the history of the heroes ended at their victory. Gonzo probably returned home, reliable as a rock. For the one, he was worried. Maybe she travels somewhere. Or maybe looking for him? The thought frightened. But it could be true. They kept promises. Now his turn, 99 more worlds ahead, and a happy ending for everyone. Suddenly, a flash of memory. General Demon said that Ed would die alone. Why did he mention it now? After all, he always knew it. It was his choice. The path where he will not leave a trace. Belonged to no one. Just a shadow passing by. But he chose this loneliness to eventually find a place where it would be happy. House. Ed approached the door with the inscription 002, but he felt someone's presence. He turned. It was she. She found him. She really came. Meanwhile, the history of the hero has become a legend. The children staged her. One proudly stated that the winner of the Lord was easy. They quickly divided the roles. Hero, Tia, Gonzo. One boy complained that he had reached Ed's role again. Another asked why someone was constantly playing a hero. At this point, the adult is a good, sophisticated adult. She approached and smiling in a complaint. She reminded that Ida recognized Alexis himself, the best friend, and she explained how cool he was. The children froze. Someone whispered, "Is the elf?" The other is how beautiful it is. 10 years have passed. The world was slowly healing. The kingdom of Notland was the most important place. Somewhere in the royal palace continued public affairs. On the throne heard the next appeal. The king confirmed that they would act properly. The advisor reported, the last request for the day. The king agreed, asked to name the visitor. The hall entered the elven guest. Bowing, thanked for her personal audience. The king briefly cut off the formalities, stating that royal time is too valuable for unnecessary ceremonies. The guest answered with a light smile, calling a king named as if a long-known acquaintance. It was that. Alexis immediately recognized her and rose. Their views met, and in the next moment, Tai hugged him with genuine joy. 2 years have passed. She joked how naturally he entered the role of the king. Alexis, a little embarrassed, asked her to release. She noted that Gonzo did not come with her. Tai explained. He is busy with training and will not soon be able to go on the road. Alexis nodded and asked about the trip, but she replied that she had arrived by the sea, faster than land. They were interrupted by advisor Reginald, who with a smile noted that that was the same fiery and freedom. She congratulated his warmth and asked to talk to Alexis. Reginald explained that although the king had meetings, the schedule was changed by learning about her visit. Alexis restrained the annoyance. He was not warned about it, and that glad and thanked. They stood together that evening, looking at the night city. The lights below were shimmering like a star's river. Alexis suggested that the night air was already cool. She thanked the warmth and enthusiastically inspected the city. Progress was obvious. Alexis has accepted a compliment, but modestly added, a long way ahead. But it was the first real step. Outside the capital, the world remained in the dark, but its goal is to bring light to every home. Otherwise, the promise given to Ed will remain empty. That day remembered that day. After the victory over the Lord Demons, they rushed to the last forces where Ed was seen last. But there they were met only the mutilated bodies of the monster, and the left sword of Ed. She hoped at least to return his body home. Years of search have passed until a tiny hope appeared. Maybe Ed is still alive. 10 years have passed. Someone said, maybe it's time to accept the truth. The world goes on. But that had another goal. It went to the eastern continent to explore the technique of soul's detection. Her path was not in vain. Despite the difficulties and excitement that Gonzo caused it, she succeeded. She found a place where Ed's soul was. It was incredible. No trace before, and now alive. But this joy mixed with pain. She could not reach him. The source was too far, perhaps behind the sea, the sky, and maybe outside the world. But that did not seem. She thought about a spell that could overcome any distance. Teleportation. But such magic demanded an incredible quantity of mana. Even for an elfish with a giant stock, this would not be enough. The only hope is to collect Manu from the whole kingdom, and possibly the whole world. She could find volunteers. Her name and purpose were inspired. But even more danger is the destination. To teleport in a random, the risk of dying right away. Preparation is required, but that was unwavering. She thanked Alexis for support. But she decided not to burden anyone else. She knew Ed would be angry if others were injured. Alexis was worried, but she reassured him. She once saved the world, it can handle it. The same night, someone knocked on Alexis's office. It was Reginald. He recalled that it's time to go to rest. Alexis agreed, as soon as he finishes. Reginald wondered if he wanted to dinner with that. Maybe organize a meal. Alexis refused. Now it was not necessary. She found the thread that led to Ed. It will not interfere. To the question where she is now, Alexis answered in the archives. He gave her full access. She probably has already plunged into the study. Reginald was worried. He understood the emotional weight of these memories and feared that they were going too far. But Alexis calmly replied, finally, they caught the tail of a missing friend. They finally found a hook, and this time they will not be released. Ed no longer escape. Meanwhile in the royal archives, Tai frozen in fascination. There were mountains of knowledge, modern research, unique works, all you expect from the country's main library. The maid brought her the requested article and offered help. Tai thanked her sincerely, though slightly apologized for the number of requests. But she was answered that it was not a concern, but an honor. Thanks to this, she has access almost all archives, even those that are usually forbidden. Among the names are the theory of double manifestation, manaflux in the demonic world, the impact of muscle tension on magical return. Her research has gained a frantic pace. She was aware that she was lucky to have such reliable, loyal friends. That is why she had to complete the case. Even if she has to put all her life, she will find Ed. The treasury still stored what he left, a silver wing. Thanks to one of his fragments, that identified the location of Ed's soul. Only one step remained. But this last step seemed to an infinite abyss. So close, and yet unattainable. She had already believed that she would see him soon, but it turned out that the distance was still huge. Why did Ed go so far? Tai leaned over the table, tired, covered with longing. She was incredibly sad, but then her gaze fell on a page that looked from one book. She pulled her carefully and began to read it. Title: Practical Use of External Mana for Large Ones. The author is a little-known researcher. She was not going to give up a miracle. The next morning, Tia met her husband, who greeted her fun. She answered with a smile. He noted that she looks inspired. Was there something good? She just laughed and accelerated the course to the palace. One of the guards tried to stop it. They say His Majesty is busy, but that was already rapidly running inside. She was overwhelmed by joy. She exclaimed that she found something incredible, a way to get even beyond the impossible. But an official meeting was still in the hall. Men present during the meeting were frozen in surprise from an unexpected invasion. Tia realized her mistake, apologetically, and in a panic she closed the door. Inside, Alexis barely held back laughter, and the rest of the officials cheerfully whispered, "Lady that remained as bright." Her energy illuminated the entire hall. Someone suggested that she made an important discovery. Alexis declared a temporary break, and all agreed. When he came out, he found the one who sat under the wall. He came gently, noting that she looks impatient. She recognized her carelessness, and asked if she could talk now. Then she showed him an article that she seized it. She was amazed at its content and wondered who this mysterious author was. Alexis took the document and noted that the author was a woman. Her work really impressed. Tai asked to leave her. At the same time, she wondered why he was in armor. Alexis explained. He had an inspection in a dangerous region, but was ready for everything. And the article, a copy remained in the archives. Then he wondered what opening she made. The eyes of that shone. If it is possible to apply this theory, then the method she once abandoned can become a reality again. She did not reveal all the details, so far. If the experiment succeeds,
She will tell everything. Alexis was looking forward to. And that confidently stated, everything will work out, road. Feeling the influx of strength, she thanked Alexis and stated strongly, it is time to act. Wishing him success in business, she ran. Alexis smiled. Her hurry was familiar and dear. Later, at the top of the tower, that approached the old magician with an important request. She had an idea to check. She found a secret bypass. The theory was still unconfirmed, but if everything works, it will be able to go beyond the world and get to where ED is now. But this requires a place with a tremendous level of mana, and the only place that meets the requirements is the demonic world. She was sure that it would work. Alexis and Gonzo have already gone in their ways, fulfilling their duties. That is why that could not ask for more. This path is her, and only her. She must go through it. She remembered Ed's words, as he never wanted to waste his comrades' efforts. The past 10 years have tried all possible methods, and even now she didn't know if the last attempt would succeed. But to give up is not an option. Everything that Ed was, lived in her heart, and that is why she will find him, whatever happens. On her way, a quiet lake. She stopped on the shore. She held a small object in her hands. Strange bubbles floated on the water. She recorded something, formulas, calculations, perhaps even a letter. Her winged beast landed nearby and stirred up until she continued her work. Rain began, soft, then more abundant. But that did not stop. She got wet into the thread but did not retreat. She was in memory, loyalty, and hope that she would come to him again. Further on her way, a bear happened. Without hesitation for a moment, she clenched his fists and rushed to meet him. After a rigid collision, she won. The pure power of will and determination gave results. Subsequently, that found a vacation, and in the morning she returned to the lake again. She took a small object from the water and carefully put on the ground. The sky began to lighten. The soft light touched the fragile plant standing in the middle of the lake, mute proof of her hard work. Meanwhile, in another region, the earth covered snow. White flakes lay on the roofs and streets. People hurried in business, wrapped in warm cloaks, defending themselves from cold. Among the bustle near the big ship in the port stood Gonzo. It has been 4 years since the last meeting with Alexis. He thanked Gonzo for the journey, but Gonzo just shrugged. Clearing the earth was his duty, and he arrived not himself, but with an elite detachment of battle monks from the eastern continent. Alexis thanked again. If Gonzo deprives the miasma terrain, they will be able to build a teleportation gate for the first time. It is a miracle of magical engineering. Even Gonzo confessed that it is difficult to believe that it is possible at their time. Alexis paid tribute. It was she who found old records, restored the forgotten theory, and laid the foundations for the whole project. Interested, Gonzo asked where Tia is now. She had to arrive 3 months ago. Alexis confirmed, arrived, and almost disappeared. Found a new mark of Ed. Before leaving, she visited Gonzo. He nodded. Really, she came. But he only said goodbye to her with some tips. Alexis sighed. She wanted her to rely on them, shared the burden. Yes, they all had their own things, but the desire to find Ed united them. She did not have to go against the bear, but in the style of that, to do everything alone. But Gonzo disagreed with Alexis. He did not think that that isolates himself. She simply did her part of the fate, precisely because Alexis and Gonzo stood in their places. She could go to Ed freely, and not all support methods require direct presence. Alexis recognized, even being a king, he still does not understand much. Gonzo laughed. Such a life. Then he asked, "Where is that now? In the laboratory? Burned into the formula?" Alexis shook his head. As soon as she arrived, immediately fled with the recycled thesis. Gonzo noted that she was clearly in a hurry. Alexis agreed. But she was. It is impossible to stop it when a new idea is in your mind. Gonzo smiled. In so many years she has not changed. However, Alexis should guess where she went. True? He began to talk about the content of the theory as a woman with a tricky smile approached them. She joked whether they were talking about her. It was Raj, the author of the same thesis, who pushed the new way. Alexis congratulated her, confirming, yes, her work was discussed, suggested answering a few questions. Gonzo also congratulated her. They have not seen you for a long time. She looked well. Raj smiled in response. She is also pleased to see them. Alexis asked if she knew how Tai received the thesis, and whether she guesses what she was looking for. But Raj slyly answered, she would tell, but provided that her scientific budget is doubled. Alexis waved, demanding to answer without trading. Raj reproached him for the boldness. You want respect.
Alexis recalled. To report is her duty, and increasing funding is through an official request. The controversy has flared up. Pride on both sides. Gonzo had to intervene and calm them. He asked directly about the essence of the thesis. Alexis, though a little lord, promised they will consider her request. Now she had to say everything. Raj agreed. But at first she asked, did any of them read this work at all? Gonzo confessed, no, the subject is too complicated for him. So, it will explain from the beginning. The essence of theory, the use of external mana. Simply put, it allowed to draw magical energy from the environment, as from its tank. Traditionally, this idea was considered impossible. For large scale, several strong magicians that operated in unison were required. But her method allowed to achieve the same, alone. The only condition is the creation and activation of a special magical circle. If ready, anyone who is able to start it could be used by the technique. This is what opened the way to create a television gate, and this required not only a huge, but also extremely stable mana. Due to the external source, it became possible. One discovery capable of advanced magical science for centuries forward. Gonzo fell silent for a moment. He turned to Alexis, asking his opinion. He, though he knew the theory, again felt the weight of this revolutionary idea. But the main question remains. Where is that now? Gonzo asked Raj whether the efficiency of the external man on the terrain depends. Raj immediately confirmed. Of course. The more the surrounding mana, the stronger the result. Gonzo insisted on examples. From his point of view, she sparkled. She confessed, there is such a place. She deliberately excluded him from the thesis, because the excess of mana is dangerous there. But in terms of efficiency, it is perfect. But there are a monster. They looked at Gunzo, demonic world. Raj rushed behind Alexis, trying to understand what he had found. He stated with determination that the cleansing is postponed. Raj is Autorila. How can he throw everything just like that? But Alexis did not rotate. He had an urgent business that is on the verge of breakthrough. Raj couldn't believe it. Gonzo, though surprised, asked, he really goes immediately? Alexis confirmed. Thanks to just heard, he realized that is already ready for teleportation. If you delay, they can lose it forever. Gonzo agreed. That always acted faster than others. Gonzo added that after the demonstration of the demon, its influence is weakened. Alexis agreed. He was convinced that that would survive. In the demonic world, and this was dangerous. If you do not hurry, it will disappear from the field of view. Raj tried to stop them. She did not understand logic. She asked directly, did you take the world of demons seriously? Alexis answered clearly, yes, and even promised to bow if necessary, but he will not retreat. Raj demanded clear explanations, not beautiful words. And at that moment there was another voice, Rejoining. Raj instantly addressed him. Let the king be able to speak in essence. He quickly understood the situation. And I understood. That seems to have already completed the teleportation method. Raj, nervous, with irritation. And what of that? They will break the whole operation now. Hundreds of people are involved in it, and sudden cancellation is a disaster. And not only for the kingdom of Alexis, but also for the eastern continent. In addition, fly to the demonic world, 6 days on the Griffin. Alexis really thinks that that will be waiting? This is an absurdity. Rejoining appealed to Alexis. Does he really have a reason that justifies such an ill-advised step? Is there anything so important? Alexis did not star. He said, this time he wants to have a girlfriend in person. To see her last. No more and no less. The horn was shocked. It sounds like an emotional impulse. How can he say that being a king? But Gonzo stood. He believed that Alexis deserved it. Raj was surprised. Deserved what? Gonzo replied, reward. For saving the world. And his choice is this moment. To spend a friend on the road she became. This is the desire of a real hero. Can't Rag give him one such day? And he himself goes too. After all, he also belongs to him. Raj was exhausted. Also Gonzo? They just leave everything for. But Rejoining, having figured out, agreed. He wished Alexis a good trip, not like a king, like a hero. Rag was still grunting, but finally seemed. Let it be in their own way. Alexis apologized briefly. Rejoining winked. Don't worry, I will understand it. And with a soft smile added, I will wait for your return, my princess. Alexis was surprised, but sincerely thanked. He returned to Gunzo. It's time to go. He nodded. Follows. And Raj muttered her nose. That's why she can't stand men. How many years they are. but behaved like boys with dreams. Ringanold laughed and agreed, but in his soul he thought, it's fine.
The hero who always fought for humanity has finally done something for himself, for the sake of a friend. This thought filled him with joy. He wished his prince silently, fly free.
Alexis sat on the griffin. The wind carried them forward, and thoughts returned to that, Gonzo, Ed. They are indispensable comrades. But he knew that their paths may not cross. Whatever warmth is near the common fire, the end will come. The flame will go out, and everyone will wake up from sleep, will go. That is why he had to be with her now, to see her last, so that you do not regret. And so when they were flying, Gonzo pointed forward. Alexis looked, and froze. What was it? They saw a strange power ahead, but something was wrong in this landscape. Gonzo explained. Giant trees scattered among the natural forests were clearly not belonging to this ecosystem. They looked unnatural. They were definitely planted. It could only be that. Alexis wondered why she is such trees, but Gonzo pointed forward. Smoke was rising behind the trees. They went down to the ground. Alexis jumped from the griffin and ran, shouting. She had to be somewhere nearby. In the hut, that share, hearing a familiar voice. She looked, and indeed it was Alexis. She replied that she would be right now. Then she reassured the griffin ball, they say. Friends came. She opened the door. Alexis and Gonzo stood in front of her. Tai invited them inside. Gonzo nodded silently and went. She offered to feel at home. Little hut, but cozy, isn't it? Alexis wondered if she built. That confirmed, with the help of magic. But why are they so early here? Her letter had to come only now. Gonzo was surprised. What else is the letter? The silence hung. All of them were looked at. Tai was stunned. If there was no letter, why did they come? Later that night, she tried to understand everything. Gonzo arrived to assist with the installation of teleportation gates. It turns out that everything went well. Her theory really worked. She was convinced of success. She checked it in person. Alexis only sighed. He did not doubt that she was protesting everything first. Gonzo mentioned the strange trees they saw from the sky. Is this part of the plan? The eyes of those caught fire, just that. It was difficult, but everything went properly. Trees are a unique species designed for the absorption and storage of mana from the atmosphere. Even she built a hut from them. That is why she was able to do everything herself. Gonzo realized, these trees are nodes in a large magical system. Tai confirmed that thanks to their roots, she created a huge magical circle. And as soon as it is activated, the whole accumulated mana will merge together and allow you to get to Ed, wherever it is. Preparation is completed. That is why she sent a letter. She wanted to say goodbye in a human way. Alexis lowered his eyes. Gonzo silently was fond of her determination. She made the impossible. Gonzo asked, when does she plan to go? Tomorrow. Both men froze. Tomorrow? Isn't it too early? But that did not see the point of delaying. They have already seen, and they have 2 more. She has already decided. She will leave. Alexis confessed that he could not compare with such hardness. Gonzo suggested spending the evening in conversations. Tai was glad. How long they did not communicate. Alexis asked if it would not be difficult for her to sleep. She laughed. On the contrary, it would give her strength. She was already with Ed. I wonder what face he will have when he sees her again. Surprised? Happy? Bad? It doesn't matter. She just wanted to see him. Even if you have to leave the warmth of friendship, it is worth it. Alexis called it by name. He asked, she still loves him? Tia looked at him, hesitated. Then she slightly blushed and nodded. Yes. Alexis understood everything. She is ready to go to the end just to see Ed again. The next morning they stood near the portal. Alexis asked, this is the place where his sword was found? That confirmed. It was the last time here. This is the point closest to him. That is why she activates the spell here. Alexis said he wanted to give her a gift. That was surprised. It was a pendant found while searching for a holy sword. It had medicinal properties. She hesitates. Can she accept such a thing? But Alexis assured, he has Gonzo, and she will be herself. Gonzo also extended a gift. A couple of crawls created by one of the best masters of the kingdom. Not the level of Ed products, but very reliable. Tai thanked both. She was ready. She asked, what does it look like? Not surprising? They both assured, she looks great. Tai hugged her griffin, thanked everything. She said, let her return to the castle and take care of itself. Then she approached Alexis and Gonzo and hugged them. She thanked them sincerely. These were her closest friends and the most loyal associates. They always supported her, believed in her. Now she goes. But farewell is not the end. This is a necessary step so everyone can go forward. Alexis asked, "Pass Ed from us greetings." The flash of light surrounded the one. It was picked up. The power of the portal lifted it into the space between the worlds. Consciousness began to drift. Where is Ed? She felt something pulled. It was enveloped, both light, sound, memories, and feelings. Everything was mixed in a single swirl. The scenes flashed around her, familiar, and completely alien. She saw the world from her own dreams. No, it was more. These were other people's memories. They poured on her, like a mud, who captivates her soul. Her spirit shouted, it wasn't a dream. These were memories. She saw Ed. She saw how he gave everything. His past, future, himself. She screamed to him, seeing him disappear in the glow. But something was wrong. Her presence repelled. It was pulled back. Why? Isn't the mana enough? After all the preparations? She was so close. She begged Ed, reach out. She stretched her hand when everything was darkened. Then something cracked. That exposed the sword. No, now her turn to reach for him. He changed the past. Now she will give him the future. She screamed, collecting all the manu which she had. Take me to him, Ed! And she saw him. Ed stood in front of her, at huge doors. She couldn't believe. She found him. Finally, she shouted his name. The tears acted in the eyes. Ed turned, disoriented. He muttered, "No, it's impossible. Even as a joke is too cruel. It cannot be that stand here." She rushed to him and hugged firmly, repeated again and again. "I found you, Ed Frost." Her voice, her warmth, she was. It was a real that. She thanked Ed. Ed was worried about whether she had calmed down. She replied that yes, and quietly apologized that she was crying again on her chest. She laughed. If it is convenient to use his chest as a pillow, let it. Although every day. He almost joked about the rent, but fell silent when he heard it whispered. Again. This word stopped it. She said, now she remembers everything. All he did for her. For everyone. How he fulfilled her desire that day. As it changed the past and the future. And now she realized why she sought to see him again. She thanked again, but with a sadness in the voice, recognizing that her intervention has changed his future. Ed interrupted her, stopped this stream of anxiety. He asked where she knew it all, and most importantly, how did she come here at all? Their faces were close, too close. The voltage was hanging in the air. That Tia was silent. Then she began to tell. When she finished, Ed could not stand. Shouted. Where did she hold her head? She spent 10 years looking for it, and then she risked teleporting through an unstable channel just for the sake of guessing. One incorrect spell, and it could dissolve in the void. He trembled, covered with panic and rage. Then that... He grabbed his face with both hands, and stopped. In her eyes, a smile flashed. Do you want to know why I did it? Because you disappeared, without a word. She did not answer him. This time she caught up with him, and will not let go. Ed felt her hand trembled a little. She is the same as he then. She left everything, friends, home, future, for the sake of him. In response, he could only say one thing. Thank you, from the bottom of the heart. To see her again, the happiness he could not grasp. Tai nodded. She felt the same. She stuck to him, breathing a familiar smell, feeling its warmth. Again, after so many years. Ed wanted to say something, embarrassed, but she pressed even closer. Let me just stay. Good, he whispered. And he remembered. Before her arrival, the memories broke into his mind again. Another version of it is from another timeline. Only she remained there. After the expulsion of Ed, the army of demons destroyed everything. Alexis and Gonzo were killed. It remained alone. But in this world, everything was different. Everyone was alive. Peace came. And all this is thanks to Ed. She thanked him again, but he just shrugged. It is not his merit of one. Everyone played their role, but that did not allow him to diminish his contribution. He was also everyone. His efforts were important. He was charming again, they say. He just sought benefits for himself. She looked skeptically. Well, if you say... She laughed and looked around. This place is not at all like the usual world. What is it at all? Ed sighed. A long story, but if she wants... He will tell. Tai answered without hesitation. She wants to know everything. But in a moment she screamed with distrust. Expulsion from 100 worlds? And after all this, he rejected everything to start from scratch? Who is capable of this at all? Ed lowered his head, but that stopped him. Don't apologize. She thanked him again, sincerely and warmly. They hugged, quietly, with understanding. And then that strongly stated, she decided. She will go with him. Will travel to other worlds with him. Ed has frozen. She is with him? She confirmed, if of course he does not mind. He immediately assured, it's not. But how is it possible? And she definitely doesn't want to return. Others will worry. Tai answered, no need. She predicted everything. She has already said goodbye to everyone. At first she wanted to see Ed last and leave, but now she knew. If she leaves it again, she would regret it all his life. She makes her choice, as he once did. She wants to be near. Travel together. This is her only desire, if Ed does not want to go. But before that, she gently looked at him and asked, can I become part of your desire from the past? Ed smiled. She is very persistent today. What you do, said that. I'm a greedy woman. They laughed. But Ed noted that there may be difficulties. Traveling between the worlds is not fully his strength. He is not sure if he can take someone with him. Then Tai asked, what is the radiant thing? All this time she confused her. And why is it still glowing? She pointed to her. This is the crystal sphere from which he got strength, right? Ed nodded. If you touch it, you can get a new ability. But why is it still active? Suddenly he thought, what, how does that touches her? She was surprised but agreed. She reached out and touched. Sparks, light, energy explosion. Power rushed from the inside of the sphere. Ed screamed her alarmed. Tai looked silently at her hands. Her gaze was surprised. Ed asked, was everything okay? She replied, yes, just shock. And she reached out. Let's go together, she said, smiling. The letters appeared in her mind. She has just got power, the same as Ed. He asked what kind of ability. She explained. If she holds someone's hand, she will be able to cross the boundaries between the worlds with him. It was incredible. That's how Exalt Light's power looks like? Her body was filled with warmth, soft and tender. Now she could travel with him. She raised her hands up from joy. Ed frozen. Tai got the power of Exalt Light. It could not be a coincidence. It was solved from the beginning. He did not outline the system. He just walked the road that was already laid for him. Every choice, every victim, every struggle, all this was part of the divine plan. That is, he did not change the past, only went the way that someone has already chosen for him. But why was it all the circle of pain then? Perhaps the purpose of God is not to save one world, but to save them all. But was there an easier way, less cruel? At this point, the voice of that returned him to reality. She was concerned about his silence. Is something wrong? Maybe her strength prevented him? But now it didn't matter. He realized that the intentions of God he never met him is no longer interested in. Their result, their future, is better than he could dream. And he had nothing to complain about. Ed smiled warmly, gratefully. They go together, and this is enough. He made her decision and said he would continue to rely on her. Subsequently, Tai exploded with joy. The very thought of the journey of the unknown worlds fascinated her. It seemed unreal. She understood it would be difficult, but she was sure that they would handle any call together. They stood in front of the door, still holding hands. Ed asked if she was ready to go right now. The flow of mana was not too strong. It would not hurt to relax a little. But Tai remembered how Ed once went into this path, lonely, many times, without support. She shakes her head. No, she is in full order. On the contrary, it was overwhelmed by energy and excitement. Ed nodded. The time has come. And he reached out to her with a smile. Once again, he said. A gentle, almost solemn gesture. Just don't let go. She promised. Never. For Ed, even as a reward for the salvation of the world, it was too generous. To be not one in this white, cold space. Its presence was warm, alive. He couldn't give it up. He thought again. It's too much. And that named him. In her voice there was a charm. She suddenly realized, yes, this is really a gift above. And she asked, what kind of world awaits them next? Ed did not respond immediately. Tai leaned closer. Her eyes glowed with expectations. Together they stepped forward. Now Ed carried her in her hands, as if soaring in space. A new world opened in front of them. Welcome, he said. That look around. The landscape seemed to be familiar. Is this exactly another world? She asked. But Ed did not have time. They were interrupted. The voice, rude and alert, asked what they were doing here. Before them was a beastie man, like a dog, but dressed on 2 legs. He demanded explanations. This territory belongs to Animated. Ed instantly asked to remain silent. He himself power. He turned to the creature politely, but he saw something strange, that trembled. From delight. He turned, but it was too late. She rushed forward and hugged the Animaltian firmly. You are such a cute! She was delighted as a baby. A fluffy creature was too charming. Who are you? She exclaimed happily. He seemed to be even more dear. The creature was embarrassed that she permits herself at all, but that only repeated. Little, soft, sweet. Ed sighed heavily. Calm down. Let him go. You see it for the first time. You cannot just rush into the arms. Tai frowned, but still muttered. But such a sweet. Ed rubbed the temples. Listen carefully. This creature you just hugged. He paused. He is a hero. Tai has frozen. She blinked. The hero? She repeated aloud. Hero? She asked in surprise again, without believing at all.